too good, but whatever. All right. So we're going to do things a little differently here today. Normally I go through Wooburg, but I'm going to go backwards. We're going to go multicolored and then green, red, black, blue, white. Multicolor, colorless, because there's not very many lands or artifacts, so we're just going to start there first. And there are a lot of the mechanics are in the multicolored first, so I'm just going to start there. So let's go ahead and turn this down a little bit. All right. Drum roll, please. Yeah. All right. So we got, I'm just naming them off of the, I'm naming them off of the arena convention. So, yeah. All right. I have to preface this by saying these are the arena names. These are not the Spider-Man names, and I'm not going to change those names. Although, interestingly, from WotC, if you look these up, in apparently they said they solved that for like Goldfish and all the sites that pull the names, the naming conventions. So if you copy a deck list from one of those sites that have the original names of the card names, so like, you know, Flash Thompson, Venom, Carnage, whatever, and you put those into Arena, like when you import or export, it'll actually pull those names. So you don't have to like, they solve that with coding, basically. So you don't have to do some shenanigans to like figure that out. It's already done for you. So I guess that's a win for them, I guess. If that makes sense. So, all right. Eleni Brood Recruiter. 1 green, 1 white, 2 colorless, legendary creature, spider, human hero. In web, 1 green, 1 white, 1 colorless, 3/5. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 green, white human citizen creature token. 3 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and vigilance till end of turn. In web, it is basically the paper version of web slinging, and it is the Spider-Man version of oh my god, ninjutsu, but it's not that. So there was no reminder text for in web, so I have to go find a web slinging card to read you. Yeah. So you may cast this for the in web cost, which is 1 white, 1 green, 1 colorless, and you return a tapped creature you control to its owner's hand. So it's better than ninjutsu in that it doesn't have to be attacking; it just has to be tapped. So like you pay convoke cost and then pay the in web cost, whatever, and that's basically return tapped creature. And I think that's kind of insane. Because effectively you pay the in web cost, and it like effectively mana dorks are like affinity, or like they add 2. So like Llanowar Elf basically like pays the green and is a tapped creature, and then you pay the white and the colorless, if that makes sense. So like Llanowar Elves and like mana dorks are like really insanely synergistic within web or web slinging, which is kind of dumb considering I didn't even consider that till just now. So like getting a 3/5 for 3, you have to bounce the Llanowar off obviously, but I don't think that matters because like you're putting a 3/5 into play, and then the flavor text of creature, like the overrun, whatever. I I don't know how good this is in standard, and right now I think standard is in a bad spot. We're not going to know until like November if they actually ban something or not, or they're just going to let the format ride. I have to imagine they're going to do something about it, but until then, it's going to be really difficult to see like how standard shakes out with cards like this, because like this seems powerful to put, you know, a 3/5 into play on 3. On 4, I mean the rate is good, but you don't want token generators on 4 or 5. What you want them on 2 and 3. So I think the cost is 1 extra than it should be, and it probably could have been like a 3/4 for 3 and then in web for 2 or some shit like that. But either way, this is fine. I don't think this is going to be as good as people think it is, although I haven't seen this card or this template like being talked about on Twitter that much. So whatever. I think it's fine. I don't think it's like busted or anything. In older formats, maybe, but I doubt it. Interestingly, it's a legend, so if you're playing like a bunch of legendary stuff, then maybe, but Boris, the Spider Rider, 1 green, 1 red, 1 colorless, legendary spider human hero 4/3, in web 1 red, 1 green with trample. If Boris was cast using in web, he enters with X +1/+1 counters on him, where X is the mana value return. This card seems very good. In aggro decks, bouncing a 1 is basically putting a 5/4 into play for 2. Bouncing the creature, whatever, you don't really care. And he enters. It doesn't mean that he enters, or like he has to enter the battlefield first and then the trigger happens. No. When you cast within web, it automatically just enters with a +1/+1 or that many +1/+1 counters. Ayo, what it do? What's up? I'm good. The better questions, how are you? So, I think red green. If there's an aggro deck just working, that's what everybody is doing right now. I'm on vacation, so 6 a.m. to 5. Fuck that. But yeah, green red aggro has a very, very, very good 2-drop here, because that's what this is. This is not a 3. This is a 2-drop, and that's what you're trying to do with him. I think it's interesting with the 2-drop. Green red seems like an aggro strat, like it always was, but being able to give this haste, bouncing sagas like the creature saga from Final Fantasy, so effectively like you play the saga and then you bounce it, and now it's a 6/5 with haste on 3. Seems kind of nuts with trample haste 6/5. But it seems good no matter what cost that you're, or what turn you play it. So like you play it on 2, you play it on 3, bouncing creatures, making it bigger. Obviously it doesn't dodge like the best removal in the format, but it dodges a lot of it. Yeah. After like I didn't read this like entirely, but now that I've read it, this seems better than I expected it to be. And it could be just like, yeah, it's good, and that's it. But if green red is an aggro deck, or there's a deck, I'm pretty sure this is going to be in it, just because whether you have Land of War Elf or not, or you have a green or red creature that gets something like enter the battlefield trigger or something, or it has haste, doing the same thing, like bouncing it on 2 and then 3 you just recast it or whatever. Same thing. Yeah, I like this a lot. For aggro decks. Bracco Heartless Hunter, 1 green, 1 colorless, 1 black. Legendary creature, human warrior villain, 4/3 with trample. Whenever a creature an opponent controls with greatest power among creatures that player controls dies, let's say that 5 times fast, draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on Bracco. You know, if you're going from you know, Boris to Bracco. Bracco seems a lot worse than Boris. Like, there's no one web cost, and playing this on 3, and it's a 4/3. Like, it doesn't get bigger the moment it enters the battlefield. Like, something has to die first, and it's just, man, I would not be wanting to cast a 4/3 on 3. That's just me, but I'm sure that there's others that would, and Golgari hasn't been that good. Villains can't sling web silly. Yeah. There are some villain-esque synergistic cards in that, but I don't know if they're green-black. I think they're other colors, but I might be wrong. If you're able to, like, to kill stuff or make stuff that just dies, like, the turn that you play it, like, this doesn't seem like a 3, this seems like a 4, and it just seems worse on the 4. So, like, I don't know. It having trample is also weird, but again, I don't know how good this would be in a format like Standard, like right now. 4/3 is fine. Generally speaking, you're getting your stuff, you know, torched or not necessarily abraded. I mean, I don't even know what the black. I think the biggest black removal spell right now is like Bitter Triumph or Shoot the Sheriff, which I'm pretty sure Shoot the Sheriff hits this. So I got nothing. Like, I think this is fine. I just don't think this is good, or it's not that great. Like, it's just fine. And only in Standard. I don't think this is good enough anywhere else. Cheering Crowd. Hybrid mana is back. 1 colorless, 1 hybrid green or red. Human Citizen 2/2. At the beginning of each player's first main phase, that player may put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. If they do, add a colorless for each counter on it. I have nothing is good in a mountain format. I guess not. I have no idea if this card's good or not, but what I do like is you get the mana first if you want it. I just don't know if I would do it first, if that makes sense. Although, I will say, you can trigger this. No, you can't even trigger it that way either. So, like, you can't, like, get got by, you know, the opponent putting the trigger on the stack first, and then, like, resolving it, and then destroying the creature first, like, with a burn spell or whatever, like, shocking it first, and then trying to get the counters, because it checks the counters first. So, you can't get got like that. But, man, I'd be so scared to like, and this has older format implications too, just like, you know, Fatal Push hits this, but, I don't know if this is good enough in Historic, but adding colorless mana is always good. So generally, if you're playing this, you're playing it in a deck that's like going way over the top. So like if your opponent gets it and puts a 3 or a 4 or a 5 mana creature into play, then you're like, all right, cool. I'm putting Nova Hellkite into play on turn 2 then, or turn 3, I mean, because the opponent got the counters first, or putting a 6-drop. Yeah. So the opponent gets it first because you've already cast this on your first main phase. I don't like cards like that, like Howling Mine or stuff like that. But again, if you're playing this, generally speaking, the creatures that you're playing are bigger than what the opponent's doing. So, like, I'm wanting to curve like Nova Hellkite from this, like just wanting the opponent to do it. And if not, then I get a 4-drop out of the deal. All right. So either way, I think the new set releases on the 23rd of September. And then in older formats, like, I would never want my opponent to have more mana than me, but that's just me. Crash, Reckless, and Endrider. 2 colorless, 1 hybrid red-black, legendary creature, mutant villain, 2/3. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, Crash deals 1 damage to that player. Decent with Boros. Yeah, very decent. With this, there's a mechanic. I don't know if it's a... I'm assuming it's... We'll talk about that mechanic later. But basically, it enables the discarding effect. And... yeah, that seems good. And just keep playing it. That seems good. It's only when a creature an opponent controls. It's not just like any creature. So the 1 damage I just think is just like flavor text, because it's really odd that you don't want your opponent's creatures to block when you want them to die. So I have no idea how this works in like 2/3 for 3 is fine, and you don't get the discard effect on the initial thing. So this is like a 3-mana do nothing. And maybe that's just not good enough, because generally you want your 3-drops to do something when it enters, and this doesn't. So maybe this is not good enough. But having an enabler for one of the mechanics seems fine. Again, I don't know why this target creature can't block stuff is a part. So maybe. I think this legendary thing is weird, because like it feels so commandery. Like, we already did that with Dominaria once. Like, can we just not do that anymore? Demera, Soul of the Spider. 1 colorless, 1 hybrid green-white. Legendary creature, human performer, 2/2. When a spider you control enters, draw a card. This ability only triggers only once each turn. Yeah, I think the spider entering, the trigger ability is, like, there's a bunch of ways to make, like, a bunch of spider tokens. So, like, if this just said, you know, the trigger, this had to have started without the triggered only once thing. And then, like, somebody put, like, 3 or 4, you know, spider tokens into play. And we're just like, no, man. We can't have that. So, I think this is fine. Just... I'm annoyed that it's legendary, but if you're playing a spider deck, this is in it. So, like, the cool thing is that you can run it in Boros, you can run it in green-red, you can run it in green-white. There's, like, so many different color combinations. Like, the hybrid mana just makes it so easy to cast. And there's a crap ton of spiders on all fronts from 1 to 5 mana. So, like, there's not... We've seen cards like this before... And, like, 1 card is fine, but, like, how many cards does it equal, like, if you ever draw a card off this, you're doing it, but cards all replace themselves all the time, and I think if you were able to get multiple cards off this, then you're winning, but, man, so many cards just get so many extra cardboard, it's just like, yeah, 1 card, yeah, whatever. 5 years ago, this card would be insane, and in fact, hold on. What's that card from? I want to say it's from... I think it's from Lost Caverns. And it's a white card. Or maybe it's from Murder. From Markov Matter. Oh my god, this is gonna drive me crazy. Alright, Scryfall, do your job. I think it's Dusk Legion Zealot. Dusk Legion Duelist. And it's from March of the Machine, so it's not that long ago. Where you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you draw a card, and it only triggers once a turn. So, like, we've had cards like this before, and they just see, like, little to no play. And just because 2/2 is so fragile, and drawing a card is okay, but it's not like the greatest thing on the planet, and it's all format contextual. So I think this is fine. I think like if you're gonna play a spider deck, you have to play this just to be able to replace like all the stuff that you do. And in older formats, whatever. We have better ways to draw cards. Carnage. I'm so sorry. Desecrex, Gift of Servitude. I wrote this in my thing as Solitude, but Servitude is the name. 1 black, 1 red, 2 colorless, legendary creature symbiote villain. 4/3 with trample. Whenever Desecrex enters, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains this creature, attacks each combat if able, and when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. Mayhem is the red-black, or really just a mechanic. Mayhem is basically like Madness, and the way it reads is Marvel Spider-Man. Let me find some reminder text of what Mayhem says. Where are you, Mayhem? It's mostly on green and black, or red. I keep saying green. It's mostly on red and black cards. Mayhem is you may cast this card from your graveyard for the Mayhem cost, and if you discard it at this turn, so timing rules still apply. So like you can't cast creature spells whenever. It's basically whenever. It's also till end of turn. Yeah. It's just if you've discarded it this turn, you can cast it whenever during that turn, or if you discarded it this turn. So you don't have to cast it immediately. Madness red, whenever you discarded this card, it goes basically into the exile zone. You cast for the Madness cost, but it had to be done right then and there. But it ignored timing restrictions because you had to play before it hit the graveyard. This one, it hits the graveyard, and then you have to cast it that turn. So Mayhem seems insane, but it runs with, like, you could still interact with it. Meaning, if it hits the graveyard, there's a lot of graveyard hate. So, like, this doesn't get around Rest in Peace, whereas Madness did. But Mayhem does not, because it has to hit the graveyard. Yeah, so like it's basically a side. I don't want to say a side grade. It's just basically a different way of how Madness works as Mayhem. I like Mayhem, and there's probably a discardy Mayhem from the graveyard deck. And I think if you're playing it, you're playing this. I like this card a lot. I think this card plays better than it looks, just because generally you're probably playing it for the Mayhem cost more than you're paying for 4. 4/3 for 2 mana is very good. And you get the enter the battlefield trigger. So you're always getting a mana value 3 or less. And this does not seem that bad in older formats where 3 mana value stuff gets better as the formats get older. But yeah, this seems fine. I don't suspect a Rakdos base strat to be good until we have Blood Crypt and better lands. But yeah, you just have to have some discard enablers, and honestly, there's not very many of them. The majority of them are red spells, so you're gonna have to find some discard outlets to make Mayhem good. But I'm surprised that there wasn't one in this set. If there is one, I just missed it. But I don't recall a good discard outlet in this set. But yeah, this card's fine. There's nothing that jumps out at me in this context of like mana value 3 or less that I'd want to come from the graveyard. But mana value 3 or less is anything. Like Sephiroth or stuff like that. Dreadfang, loathed by fans. 1 green, 1 red, 1 colorless, legendary creature, human, warrior, villain. Star 4 vigilance. Dreadfang's power is equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. So generally speaking, I don't like putting, 3-drop creatures that don't do anything in these, but this one caught my eye just because of the 4 toughness, and it's not that hard to get a 3/4 for 3 on 2, and like a 3/4 on its face for 2 mana is not bad. And if you ever play anything bigger, it just gets bigger. And Vigilance is highly annoying for opposing decks, especially if you're aggressive, because 4 toughness is a lot in this format, because everything is about 3 damage. Torch the Tower, a Braid. There's so many 3 damage things. Even some of the removal spells in this set or other sets before it, for 1 and 2 mana, that it's all 3 damage or 3 -3 or whatever. And 4 toughness is like where you want to be. But because like there's a bunch of 2/4s that just get around all that stuff, right? Cosmogran, Zenith, Preacher, Vivi when it gets a counter. Like there's so many 4 toughness stuff that just like laughs in the face of all these 3 damage stuff, and you're like, yep, I have a 3/4 for 2, and you can't do anything about it. So again, this seems like a support type of, like, I added 2 or 3 of these in my deck just because I want an aggressive but also way to block some mono red aggro stuff, which doesn't seem that bad, to be honest. So I'm not saying that you're putting like 4 of these in your deck. I'm just saying that if you're playing green red aggro, I would not be surprised to see like 1 or 2 of these as like to round out the 3s, which has a lot of competition there too. Drunith, Reviver of the Hive. 1 green, 1 blue, legendary creature, human scientist, villain. 1/1 with trample. When you cast a creature spell with mana value equal to Drunith's power, copy that spell, except the copy isn't legendary. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Drunith. This seems like so good, or reads really good, and then in practice it just sits there. Like, this card wants you to be like on curve, and this seems like one of those cards where you're just like, yeah, if this card's played on 2, this card's really good. But if you play it on like turn 4 or 5, this card just sucks. So the card's powerful, and it incentivizes you to play a lot of 1s, 2s, and 3s. But man, oh man, there is this card's busted. I don't know, man. It reads really weird because like it doesn't do it. This is one of those cards where this is probably top 5 in the set, but like I'm not seeing it, not for the fact that it gets bigger, but this just seems really dumb in the landfall deck, right? Like, am I missing it? Like, is this where you're putting it? Like, you're just straight aggro? Like, if you ever get, like, you cast a 1-drop and it's the Chocobo, and you get a copy of the Chocobo. Also, the copy isn't legendary, so you can cast legendary stuff off this, and the legend rule doesn't apply. And then you have stuff that copies tokens. Like, yeah, this card seems very good. But again, this seems like a really low to the ground card. Like, you just want to play a bunch of 1s and 2s. Like, I don't want to play 3s with my cards. But if you ever copy a 3-drop, bro, that's insane. But like the first deck that I thought of was the landfall deck. I don't know what else. I don't know what other deck that would want. I guess there's that blue-green that blue-green deck, the mid-range deck, that just like yeah, this seems out of hand. Like you like I said, this seems like one of those cards where it's just like you have to answer this on two. If you don't, you just like if the opponent ever untaps for this, you're gonna start crying. So I don't like cards that have removal checks on them, but I also understand them because it forces opponents to play interaction, which most people don't want to do that. They're like, I don't want to play interaction. It's just like you have to, because if you don't, you're just gonna get owned. And in older formats, bro, oh my god, this seems better in older formats than in standard. Because like, man, copying like really hyper aggressive blue-green cards just seems really dumb. Although again, I don't know what deck wants this, but yeah, build arounds in older formats with this just seems really dumb. And again, it's legendary, so you know you can get around with playing like Mox Ambers and stuff, if that even matters. Remember for like 5 years in Modern where everyone's like, is it a human? Can we play with it as in humans? Like humans was like the best deck in the format, the best aggro deck, and now like nobody plays humans anymore. Man, good times. Here it is. Exclusive Nightclub. I put the colorless stuff in with the multicolor stuff just because there's a couple lands, there's a couple of artifacts and whatnot, and this is one of them. Exclusive Nightclub. It's a land. It enters tapped. When this land enters from the graveyard, you lose 2 life. They did not print this right. It's supposed to read, this land enters tapped. When this land enters from the graveyard, you lose 2 life. If you do, it enters untapped and it has mayhem. That's what it's supposed to read. If you don't believe me, here's the paper version. Wait, no. Oh, I'm dumb. Never mind. That's not how this reads. I'm stupid. All right, so because it has mayhem, I'm dumb. So that thing that I said about it entering untapped, don't listen to me. I'm dumb. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Hey, Domo, what's mayhem? Mayhem reads, whenever you discard, if you discarded, oh, fucking hell. Hold on a second. Basically, mayhem reads like madness. You may play this card from your graveyard if you discarded this card this turn. So if you ever put this in the graveyard from your hand, as in you discarded it, you may play it from your graveyard. And then if you ever play this, you lose 2 life from your graveyard. Also, by the way, this is one of the things that I figured out. If you play this for the mayhem cost, it doesn't count towards your mana for the turn. So if you discard this and you played your land for the turn, you may play this for the mayhem cost because it doesn't count as playing a land. You're playing it for the mayhem cost. All right, that's why this card's good. For those who didn't tell you, because it's not playing a land for the turn, it's playing it for the mayhem cost. Cool. Yeah. I think in older formats, this probably doesn't cut it just because you can't search for it. Like you can't fetch for it. And it only works if you discard it. And there aren't very many, like in Historic, for example, no one's really playing any Faithless Looting decks. And while I'm not saying that lands, you want all of your lands that enter the battlefield untapped. So, but I could see this in like Pioneer maybe, but in Historic or Modern, I just don't see it. Just because you want all of your lands to come into play untapped. Like, lands entering tap just sucks so hard. But in Standard, being able to discard this and play it just because is just so dumb. And having a tri-land to do that is just, yeah. Physics, Ethereum Mechanic. 3 colorless legendary artifact creature spider hero. 2/3 with vigilance. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature and or vehicle you control. 2, remove 2 +1/+1 counters from among artifacts you control, draw a card. So we've had what's that? Steel Overseer, I think is what the card was called in Standard, and that card saw a lot of play. In Shards of Alara, I think is when it was in. And not Shards of Alara the set, but that Standard. And it saw a lot of play. It saw medium play. Cards like that saw play before. And there is a blue-white Jeskai-esque artifact deck in the format. And vehicles, this with vehicles, also Cauldron. So yeah. This with Cauldron just seems dumb. And I'm on board with just getting rid of that card now, over Vivi. And I'm not saying Vivi's like, not a problem. Just Cauldron is just, yeah. But in any case, yeah, like there are a lot of artifact synergy stuff in Standard right now, and cards like this have seen play before, and this seems very unassuming, but these two effects together, and I don't have to tap to draw my card, is kind of good. And then +1/+1 counters on all vehicles is like, yeah, not necessarily where you want to be, but all creatures is just good. It being a 3-drop is kind of annoying, but I think if it just had one of these abilities to be a 2-drop, I'm a little annoyed that it's a 2/3, but since it's an artifact and everybody can play it, I understand why it's not a 2/4. But yeah, we'll see. I can see this seeing constructed play, like not negotiable. Gallant Citizen, 2 hybrid green-white, human citizen 1/1. Yeah, it's legendary. Whenever this creature enters, draw a card. So we have multiple ways or cards that draw with like pixie stuff, and I'm pretty sure that white black or white blue or Esper are like the better colors, but you can still play that there. It's just difficult to cast. Cards like this have seen play all the time. A little bit less these days, but at least your 2-drop does something. Now humans has their, Elvish Visionary, essentially. I don't know if this would see play anymore, but cards like this have seen play all the time. So to say that it wouldn't see constructed play is just kind of like, I don't want to say hyperbolic, but cards like this, we've seen worse seem constructed play. I'll put it that way. Only in Standard, though. And the fact that it's easy to cast in either green or red or white or any other combination seems kind of easy. Giant Craft Helm, 1 colorless artifact equipment. Whenever a creature you control with mana value 5 or greater enters, you may attach this equipment to it. Equipped creature gets +4/+4, equip 5. The only reason I put this in here is strictly for affinity decks in Historic, where you play this on 1, you go search for it, and then you cast it, and then you use it to cast either Thought Monitor or Kappa Cannoneer, and now Kappa Cannoneer is a 9/9, or your Thought Monitor is a 6/6 flyer for 1 mana. So that basically allows your Thought Monitors to be threats, and you don't have to play extra threats to make it threats. That's the only other deck that I saw with this. I don't really know if this sees play in Standard, although I will say this with Tezzeret and Memory Guardian makes Memory Guardian a threat now. I don't know if that's good enough. Just being able to make your Memory Guardian a 7/8 kind of seems kind of funny. Flyer, by the way. I don't know if that's good enough. Just because it only works with that. Because there's not very many other artifacts with like 5 or anything else. It does say creature. It doesn't say artifact creature. So if you're playing Affinity with artifact creatures that were not just artifacts, then yeah. This seems unassuming, and making your flyers huge seems fine. You don't want too many of these though. But I could see this, seeing play in other formats. I just wouldn't play this in anything but Affinity. Or Affinity-esque, if that makes sense. Gloria the Great Armor, 1 red, 1 white, 1 colorless, legendary spider human hero, 3/3. When you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Chat, this card seems insane. Normally cards like this, it's only when this creature attacks, and it's not like that. It's whenever you attack. So, any creature, man. Yeah. And boy, oh boy. Boros, Mice, Boros, Burn, Red Aggro, whatever, man. Making your creatures huge. Convoke also, maybe, if that's a deck. And this has also older format or implications also. Just being able to, triggering this is not hard. And just the biggest draw to this is this creature doesn't have to attack. And your 1s and 2s are just better. And icing on the cake is that classifies as a modified creature. So, the play this turn is a little annoying, but man, if this was exiled and played until the end of the next turn, it's just be busted. So, I mean, it's already good, but yeah, this card's very good. One of the top cards in the set, in my opinion. 3/3 for 3 is already good, and just all this extra stuff is just icing. Cavero, Mind Bitten. 1 black, 1 blue, 2 colorless, legendary human spider, human hero. 4/4. You may have Cavero enter as a copy of any creature in any creature card in a graveyard, except his name is Cavero Mind Bitten. He's a 4/4 spider human hero, in addition to his other types. When you do, exile that card. Originally, when I read the paper version of this, I was like, is that even good enough? And then I was like, man, I don't think you care if you exiled, Valgavoth or, any other big creature, because 4/4 is fine. And the main draw is all the end of the battlefield triggers you get from the big stuff. So like, I know these cards aren't in standard, but like in older formats, if you're getting it from a Troxa or a Tali or any of these big dumb creatures that you want to reanimate, and being able to do that, you don't really care if it's a 4/4, like Grizzlebrand or whatever. I know in older formats you have like Life Death and all that stuff, but I don't think you really have that. You would much rather it be in creature form, I guess is what you would say. Because Zombify is kind of like, sure, I get it, but I don't know. I'm not saying this is like has older format implications. Just being able to, like, you're effectively playing a Reanimator deck that also like is the Reanimator hate card, if that makes sense. Because it effectively is a graveyard hate card for other creatures, and it's just good, right? But I like this card a lot. Because you also get like I said, you also get the ETB triggers too. So, I don't think you really care that it's legendary. I think you're just like, yep, I get to do the thing, In standard, I think it's better than in older formats, but again, older formats, being able to get, the opponent's stuff too is good. I don't have like a deck or a creature or like a thing in mind that I would want to put this in. It's just a good, like, this is like a blue-black. This is like a blue-black mid-range staple in my opinion. Because if you find something better and you already got the ETB trigger, then like you could play like something that bounces it and like redo it. So that seems kind of dumb. Whereas in Zombify, it's just like, oh, my creature died. Oh no. Kivney Orb Weaver, 1 black, 1 red, legendary human spider hero, 2/1 with menace. Whenever Kivney enters, you may discard a card. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on him. Mayhem, hybrid, black or red. All right, if there is a Mayhem discard enabler strategy, it's this one. Discarding the Mayhem land, you have a 3/2. Discarding Reanimator stuff, and then generally, if WotC ever gives you a 3/2 for 2, and it has other stuff, generally WotC wants you to play that card. Because basically 3 power is a pushed magic card. Interestingly, we sort of have a couple of those in standard already, and they see no play. And it's only because Vivi is so good. But this seems very good. Again, Rakdos suffers from the fact that all of their dual lands are gone. So like it's very, very difficult to get 14, 15 green or red. I keep saying green for some reason. Red-black sources when the majority of your lands are enter the battlefield tapped, which kind of sucks with Raucous Theater and Restless Vents. And you don't have Blood Crypt, you don't have Blackleaf Cliffs, like you don't have any land that enters the battlefield untapped, right? So once we get Blood Crypt and we see some red-black lands, yeah, then we'll start seeing some red-black synergy or red-black stuff. But for now, it's one of the reasons why you don't really see Rakdos too often, and if you do, it's a mid-range deck and it's like Reanimator, where it's like mostly a color. In older formats, I'm not exactly sure if we would see a Mayhem Madness type deck, but it would be fun to see if it would work, especially in like Pioneer and stuff. Might be too slow, but again, 3/2 is still good. You still see Blood Tithe Harvester from time to time, so which also helps in the Mayhem Madness stuff with the blood tokens. This having Menace also is kind of isn't Verge. Yeah, you have Verge, but like that's the only land they have. It's not like Golgari where they have their fast land and they have a Verge. Like Rakdos only has a Verge. They don't have a fast land and they don't have their shock. They only have the Verge. So kind of sucks. Especially when the other lands that tap for red or black all enter the battlefield tapped except Verge. Sucks. Knife Trick. 1 hybrid red or black. Sorcery. As an additional cost to the spell, discard a card or pay 2 mana. Knife Trick deals 3 damage to target creature. This is way worse than than Bone Shards or anything else, but hey man, you gotta do something. I'm a little upset that this doesn't target Planeswalkers, but being that it's a sorcery, but hey, this is your discard enabler. So if you have Mayhem, you have the Mayhem land or whatever, there you go. I think this is your enabler. So if you're in that strat, I really like the idea that this is a hybrid, so you don't have to play necessarily Rakdos. First time chatter, appreciate it, thanks. Hype in the chat. All right. As I was saying, mostly for standard, because like I said, in historic and older formats, we have bone shards and other discard enablers. We don't have this effect, I don't think, in Pioneer. Which I don't know if that matters or not. But we'll see. I think this is better than people think it is, just for the mere fact that there's always going to be something to discard. And you can sort of, kind of mitigate that with, Monument or Reanimator cards, or again, the discard or the Mayhem land or the Mayhem stuff. So also Knife Trick works well with Kivney, where Kivney is has Mayhem. So Mayhem seems like one of those mechanics that's just like, yeah, cool, we have it, but we don't have the lands to support it. So I can't wait for Blood Crypt and other Rakdos lands to make it into the format. But yeah, this is good. MacD and Itla Sky Snares. 1 colorless, 1 hybrid blue-white legendary creature spider human hero. 2/2 of flying. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter tapped. Whoo boy. This is very, very cheap for what it does. Normally you only get this in like 3 or 4 mana stuff, but having this on 2 and it has evasion is annoying. Taxing your opponent's stuff, artifacts and creatures, is just, man, it's sort of like you don't have to play Authority of the Councils anymore, because like all the haste stuff, you just play this, and like you could play that, but just like having the creature that's also a threat that makes their stuff enter tapped. This also helps against the warp speed stuff, where they all have haste and they have warp, and they just like, all right, comes into play, tap, doesn't do anything. This seems very good. Even in older formats, maybe not as well. In older format, I don't think it really matters, because like Fatal Push and like better removal is in there, but like you already had that, right? In standard, I don't know if this is just strictly this. Again, I don't think this is strictly a like sideboard card. I think this is actually playable like in your main, just because you have a bunch of flyers. This is a spider, so like you're playing like a hybrid. You have the Mary Jane Watson. I know that's what I use the paper cards, but whenever a spider enters, you draw a card, and this is a spider. So I don't. Even though it's like it basically dies the virtual sneeze, like you don't really care about that too much. What you care about is taxing your opponent's stuff, and this with the Voice of Victory and many other stuff that taxes. You could see even a mono white taxi deck where it's just like, oh, you only play stuff on your turn, everything enters tapped, stuff like that. So I would not be surprised to see a deck like that. Also, there are some synergistic stuff with flyers too. Margot, as opposed to Morgit or Morgot, on the case. 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 blue, or 1 red. 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue. Legendary creature, human detective hero. Double strike. Margot can't be blocked. 1/1. I have no idea if cards like this are good anymore, but unblockable is something we haven't seen in a very long time. And if we did see it, it like very rarely saw play. But like 3 might be a little too much for this. But again, double strike is double strike unblockable, man. Like the main reason why like cards like double strike or like the small creatures never saw play is because they were easily blocked. Well, you can't do that anymore. So I would not be surprised if we saw like this in a meme deck where it's just like, all right, I played Margit. Now what? What are you going to do about it? Because if you don't deal with this, if I ever get this to be big, like just 3 or 4 power, That's a lot of damage, right? And again, you can't block this. So, yeah. I know there's a lot of removal in the format, but yeah, like this seems more like a meme, but I guarantee you a lot of arena players are going to play with this just to see how good it is. It seems fun though. And like I said, in older formats maybe not, but in standard, oh yeah. Yeah, we're going to try that. Multiversal Passage. Shit, this art is better than the paper art. Land, as this land enters, choose a basic land type. You may pay 2 life. If you do, or if you don't, it enters tapped. This land is the chosen type. So effectively, this is like all those lands that enter tapped, and like you choose a basic land type, or you choose a land type, and that's what color it produces. I'm shocked to see, pun intended, of how this works in because like we already have Starting Town, and I don't like that the shock land of choice is I only get a plains, if that makes sense. Like, this is sort of like I don't want to say the standard solution to fetch lands of what they want it to be, but I think this is the best one of them, if that makes sense. So, like, fetch lands, obviously, you can go get duels or anything that has a basic land type, obviously. Yeah, but Thran Portal, you owe it, you're paying, like, all those lands, like, it would not be uncommon for you to take like 3, 4, 5 damage from a land. Whereas this is always going to be 2, but like it's only 2, right? It's not like 3, 4, 5. Like when you had like 3, like if you ever had like 2 or 3 mana confluences in your hand or like in your deck and you drew 2 of them and it's like, ah, fuck, I just took 4 or 5 damage from my lands, right? This one is just 2. So I prefer this over Thran Portal just because the ceiling, or excuse me, the floor is always 2, but the ceiling is I only pay 2. Whereas Thran Portal or other lands like that, you know, you could pay more than 2. So I think this is like the best, one of the best. I think the pathways are a little bit better than this, obviously. But this could be, you know, in Rakdos with Starting Town, that's a lot of damage, but you're probably playing something. Oh, I know for a fact this will see play. Just for the mere fact of like, it's a basic land type, I should say, and Portal saw play just because you had nothing better, right? So yeah, no, I definitely believe this will see play. Absolutely. And you could use this in like, you know, Sui strategies where, you know, you want to take damage, like in mono black or black red or something that you're just like, yes, I want to take damage. You know, where you have Last Ride or, you know, you're playing like a Death Shadowy type strat where you want to take damage. Cecil, for example, is another reason to play this land. I'm not saying that you should, just that's another way to get Cecil to flip, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think this will absolutely see play. I don't think this will see play in any other format, though. I think Standard is probably the best suited for this, but yeah, because I think Mana Confluence is the best of all those lands, if there is one. Niche Pinnacle Pariah. 1 blue, 1 black, 5 colorless, legendary creature, human scientist villain. 4/8. Other villains you control get +2/+2. Your maximum hand size is 8. At the beginning of your end step, if you have fewer than 8 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to that difference. Is Is this even good? In standard, this is probably good enough. Just because I don't think there's a creature that you can reanimate that like does this or like draws you your whole hand, like refills your whole hand, if that makes sense. Like we don't have a Troxa anymore, and we don't have like other cards that do this. Doc Ock, brother, can you like not, please? Hold on. Or are you saying this is Dr. Ock? Yeah, you're saying this is Dr. Ock. Yeah, all right. Bro, don't do that to me, please. Now I have to go find out what cards are what. All right. I don't know. I think Standard is the only place for this. Just because, like, older formats like Historic have literal Grizzlebrand, and Pioneer has Atraxa, but in Standard, you could get, like, I think there's a blue-black Reanimator deck with the Cavero, where you put this in the graveyard and you reanimate it with that, and then you draw 8 cards, or, you know, however many cards. So, yeah, I think Standard is the only place for this. Also, it probably is a bunch of villains, so your villains are getting bigger. So yeah, I think this is like your top end, but you're never casting this for 7. You're always like Zombify or Cavero or Curveiro or whatever the hell that card was. Yeah, and all the rest of those, if that makes sense. And then drawing cards equal to 8 every turn is not nothing. So like, if you ever refill your hand, like, yeah, seems good. I think that's really it. Perfected Pastry. 1 colorless artifact food. 1 white tap. Sacrifice this artifact. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Draw a card. Activate this only as a sorcery. 2 tap sack. Gain 3 life. Draw a card. Chat, listen. I've seen some artifacts in my day, and I've seen some eggs, and I've seen some draw spells. Chat, this card is insane. Like, I don't care what anybody says. 1 mana tap, do something, draw a card. So I get to replace my card. It's a food, and at any point it can operate as a food, or I get to sacrifice said food and still draw a card, or I can put a +1/+1 counter on one of my creatures, make it modified for anything, and still draw a card. This card seems dumb. Like, as a common. Like, I'm not saying it's like incredibly busted. I'm just saying for a common, brother. Like, this seems really, really good in limited, and it seems really, really good as like a, you know, an additional way to put +1/+1 counters on stuff, and I get a replacement for this as an artifact. Like, that seems really, really good to me. Like I'm over the moon for cards like this, where it's like, it has synergy, it does everything you want as like a support card, and you're not like playing 4 of them, you're playing like 1, 2, or 3 of them, and it's just like, I just need this for like extra stuff, for synergy or for whatever it is. And just the fact that I get to replace it is, man, so good. This is like one of those cards that pros play, and it's like, why are this person playing this card? And it's like, oh yeah, it just does everything you want. Only in Standard though. I don't think, because like generally foods like this, most foods, you're not playing in like, you know, Pioneer or anything that has like cat oven stuff. just because that literally gives you all the food you need. And the one thing that's really, really sad, if there is one, is how bad scavenger talent is in standard, and it just like doesn't see play. It only sees play in Pioneer just because of its synergy with Cat. So sad. I wish that we had like something that interacted with food like Cat Oven. Maybe not like literally Cauldron Familiar, but something that did something similar to that, where it cost 2 and you had to pay some life or some shit like that. Phenomena Recorder. 1 colorless artifact. This artifact enters with 3 film counters on it. 2 colorless tap. Remove a film counter from this artifact. Copy target or activated or triggered ability. You may choose new targets for the ability. This card seems incredibly good. The only thing that I don't like, if there is one, is that it costs 2 to copy. But what I do like is that if you have anything to replay artifacts from, you know, like Emery or something in the older formats, this might be relevant. But in standard specifically, I think this is more of a commander card than anything else. But I would not be surprised if you saw this as like a one of in formats where you can search for it. So like, you know, like Modern, it's very unassuming, but like the fact that you can search with it or search for it in with Urza Saga or in Standard with Tezzeret, I would not be surprised if you saw it as a one-up to search for. I don't know for what, but just being able to have it, you know, doubling in Historic. I'm not saying you would do this just because you have Emery literally, but in Alchemy, you might have this with, you know, the Drix Interlacer, where you're drawing, you're sacrificing and drawing multiple cards, or there's a reason to copy activated or triggered abilities. Just, it's cheap, is all I'm saying, and you get to do it a lot. And if you ever have like proliferate stuff, you can add counters to it. Like it seems decent for what it's cost. And again, I don't know if you're supposed to play this in Standard or not, but like you could. And it 2 mana is a lot. I'm not. Don't get this twisted. 2 mana is a lot. All right. Conius, whatever. Horizon Splicer, 3 colorless, 1 white, 1 black. Legendary creature, human, scientist, villain. 4/4. When this enters, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent and up to 1 target non-land permanent card from a graveyard. When this dies, put him at the bottom of his owner's library. If you do, return exiled cards to their owner's hands. Okay, for some reason, when I initially read this, I thought they were entering the battlefield. Is this card even good? Like, I guess you exile a card from your graveyard and you exile one of opponent's, you know, cards on the battlefield. So it's like an overcosted like Skyclave Apparition, or, you know, something that's a... Yeah, I don't know if this is good or not. Like 4/4 for 5 is okay. With no evasion, it's legendary. I think this is more of a commander card, like as a literal commander. I just don't see it for Standard or for any format, just because of how much it costs and what it does. There's no evasion. There's no other keywords. It's just exile stuff, and when it dies, they put those cards in their respective hands. It's just, yeah, sure. Not to say that it's bad, just I think there's better things to be doing at 5 mana. Reality Fulcrum, 4 colorless artifact. When this artifact enters, exile up to 2 cards from your library. exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Tap, add 2 mana of any combination. Spend this mana only to cast spells from exile. So normally, when I read cards, I read them, and sometimes I read them multiple times, and then sometimes I read multiple times, and I just don't read all the stuff, or like it doesn't register. This card, I read this, and I didn't read the last line. Not to say this is bad, just how many cards do you ever own in exile? This works really well with Warp, but that's really it. And normally, this is sort of like a call to what's that alchemy card? It's a 4-drop, has a spell book. I can't remember the name of it, but effectively does the same thing, but it doesn't say only cast spells from, the draft or whatever. It just add 2 mana of any color combination. Why they said only for exiled spells is kind of annoying, but be that as it may. At least when you draw those, you could play those at any time until the end of the next turn, which is cool. But the fact that this doesn't help you cast anything else from your hand is kind of a letdown. Because I did not read that last part. Not to say that's bad, just it's a lot less good. And only in standard or commander. Interestingly, commander counts as exile, so that works. Key to the archive, yeah, thanks. Rhino's Rampage, 1 hybrid green-red, sorcery. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It fights target creature an opponent controls. When excess damage is dealt to a creature an opponent controls this way, destroy up to 1 target non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. Man, I am so sad this card's a sorcery. If this card was, I still think if this card was an instant, it'd be fine. Because it's a non-creature artifact. So even if, and it had to be, right? Because if it was just an artifact, it would be, man, this card would be so good. And the only non-creature artifact that you really are looking at is like either hate cards or literally Cauldron. But again, it's upsetting that this card's a sorcery. And I'm at that point of this card seems fine, mostly from the sideboard, but now you understand how good the 4 toughnesses stuff are, just to be able to make your creature slightly bigger and to fight other things. Generally a good green, green stuff. And remember when I said the green-red cards, all of them are like 3 or 4 toughness. Now dealing excess damage doesn't seem very hard. And non-creature artifact also counts lands. So in older formats, I'm not saying that you would do this, but you can now hit, artifact lands or, vehicles, whatever. But really, the only card that comes to mind is Cauldron. Mostly a sideboard card, but still, constructed playable. Ruzik, booed by the victorious. 1 colorless, 2 hybrid red-black. Legendary creature goblin villain. 5/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card. Then create a treasure token. Mayhem, 2 colorless, 1 hybrid red-black. Rhino's Rampage is the name, yeah. Yeah, it's close to real. Ruzik. This reminds me of Crucius, because it effectively was the same thing, except Crucius got it at the end of the turn. This one's at the beginning of the upkeep. But it has to be that because of the Mayhem stuff. That's basically the synergy with this is Mayhem. 5/4 for 3 is good. I like that it's a 4 toughness creature. It has mayhem. Basically, if you're playing a mayhem deck, this is probably in it, along with the other 2-drop, because they all have mayhem. So, excuse me, and you get a removal spell for that. So I think they're building the deck for you. It's just like, play this, play the 2-drop, play, knife trick, and you got yourself a mayhem red-black aggro deck, right? And I like that the cards are just like really aggressive. It's just like 3/2, 5/4, deal 3 damage. Also, Bitter Triumph also helps with mayhem. So like, you have your best removal spell as a 2 mana. Like, there's a deck there now with Ruzik and Kivney and all these mayhem cards. And then you also have stuff that comes from the graveyard, which is what Rakdos wants to do anyway. So like, Timeless Color and many other cards that come from the graveyard. Yeah, I'm excited for the mayhem discard stuff. And you could also use like Monument and stuff like that to like gather your draw cards or whatever. But yeah, I like Ruzik a lot. I don't know if this is good enough in older formats, but in standard, yes, please. And I'm a big sucker for red-black. Scions of the Earth Spider. Come on, man. But alright. So if Scions of the Ur Dragon weren't a thing, now you have one for the spiders. Wooburg, one of each color, red, white, blue, black, green, and red. Legendary creature, human, spider, hero. 5/5 flying, first strike, trample, lifelink, and haste. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, other spiders you control gain flying, first strike, trample, lifelink, and haste. Honestly, and you might be calling me crazy, if there is a Legends deck, this is in it. And we already have, is that land still in standard? The Valley of Heroes or whatever that land is. No, not Plaza of Heroes. Wait, yeah, Plaza of Heroes. No, we don't have that land anymore. Damn, that sucks. Okay. But we still have, Starting Town and other multicolor stuff. I can't imagine that this is good enough in like other formats like Pioneer or whatever. But if you are trying to play humans and you're trying to play like that 5-color S stuff, I would not be surprised if this is in it, because this is a lot of keywords, and giving your spiders the same thing is just incredibly dumb. And most of those spiders that we're talking about are also legendary. So like, there's a bunch of legendary lands that give you like any color for legends. So yeah, like, it's just right. All creatures too, which are also human too, which is just incredibly insane. And then you can play like changelings if you really want to. But most would just look at this and just go, yeah, it's just a commander or whatever. Nah, man. Like, there are some legendary stuff that you could be doing, because we already had a Legends deck before. Kona, this is in, yeah. Alright, next. Skevsk, the Augmenter. 2 colorless, 1 hybrid, blue-black. Legendary creature, symbiote, human. Alright, man, appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. Symbiote, spider, hero. Thank you. 2/4, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, Look at that many cards from the top of your library. Put one of them in your hand and the rest into the graveyard. Insane. 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains this card's other abilities. Activate only as a sorcery. I think this card's incredibly good. It is a graveyard enabler. It's very cheap. It's a 2/4. Legendary. And while doing combat damage is annoying, like it has to do combat damage, like this isn't dying very like anytime soon. And if for some reason like you either mill this or like you discard it or it dies or whatever, you can give one of your other creatures that does have evasion, you know, the same ability and you make it bigger. So I think this has a lot of synergy and like Dimir strategies of what Dimir wants to do. Whether it be, you know, reanimator packages or it's just doing just straight mid-range stuff. But yeah, I would not be surprised in, you know, seeing, you know, that strat or this card in there just because, you know, it basically is fighting for the 3-drop slot with like Preacher and stuff like that. And Preacher, all Preacher has to do is attack. Whereas this, you know, it has to deal combat damage, but it's not that hard to like play Preacher and this, and all you want to do with it is just put it in the graveyard, and then give like your, you know, your sirens and like your flyers and other stuff, you know, like Fairy Mastermind or whatever, this ability, and now you're off to the races of, you know, now Fairy Mastermind's a 3/2, and now you're drawing a card every turn, while also having the other abilities. So I'm not saying that's what you want to do. I'm just saying that's the flexibility of what this card wants to do. And you don't have to necessarily have this in play to do it. I think this is only for standard. I don't think this is very good in anything else just because of how slow it is. And that's what standard wants, is cards that work very well in those formats. And if there's carryover, then so be it. But we're not having that here. So we do have a bonus sheet, and this is the symbol for it. I think it's called, the bonus sheet in the actual paper set is called source material cards. And this is one of them. And Terminate is something that I wish we would have had years ago. But be that as it may, we have it. This is for Historic and Timeless. Mostly for Historic if there is a red-black deck. We haven't really seen... we have a lot of good removal in Historic, and 2 mana is a lot for removal. So this might not be good enough anymore, but red-black now has Terminate. So, hooray. Arias, the Storm Spinner. 1 blue, 1 red, legendary creature, human, spider hero. 2/3. You cannot cast Arias, the Storm Spinner, during your first, second, or third turns of the game. This has double strike and vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, if you played a land or cast a spell this turn from anywhere other than your hand, Arias deals damage equal to his power to any target. Man, I am so tired of is it just getting all the good cards, man. Like, give some other color combinations good cards. This card's really, really good. I don't know if I don't know if 1, 2, or 3 is like, this is basically a 4-drop, obviously. But I would not be surprised if you could find a way to cheat this into play, because 2/3 double strike is just dumb. Oh, and by the way, it has vigilance. So I don't know if it's possible to put this into play, you know, absent anything else. But if you can, oh boy. Older formats, I think it's easy, just because you have, you know, Unearth and many other ways to put this into play easily. Pioneer, you have It's basically the same thing, but it's only for 2 mana value or less. And not cut to ribbons, but it's a split card. I can't remember what the card's called. Man, I'm bad at this today. But yeah, in standard, it's weird to say that I don't think this is good enough, just because, like, by the time it's turn 4, you're already dead, just in this format alone. However, if the format slows down, man, oh man, is this card good. If you ever put, like this with profs is just so dumb. Like, I'm so glad this doesn't have haste, but if it did, holy shit, this card's so good. Just like profs just makes this so incredibly dumb. Cause like, if you ever cast a spell from your graveyard, if you ever cast a spell from warp, this works well with adventures. Yeah, like, this card's just so good. Again, I don't know when you're gonna cast this. We still have plot also, which also counts. So, yeah, I don't know how you're gonna put this into play from that, but like the way I would use this card is I would cast this on 4 and have a bunch of plot stuff, or ways to put stuff into play, like cast from the graveyard or something. But yeah, I think this card, even playing on turn 4, is still good. Not as busted if you were playing this on turn 2, but still, playing this again on turn 4 is still good, just because it's effectively 4 damage. This is the other land that I was talking about, Urban Retreat. This land enters tapped. Taps to produce a Bant, so white, green, or blue. 2, return a tapped creature you control to owner's hand. Put this land card from your hand to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So effectively, you rampant growth if you have a creature. Like Llanowar Elf or any creature. And it effectively is, web slinging or in web, but that's not how this card is templated. So, yeah. This lane's good. I like that it doesn't cost, a Bant color to put it into play. But it's really weird that we only got 2 of these lands. In other words, we only got a Grixis and a Bant land. We didn't get like any other 3-drop. Yeah, so I think the Mayhem land is better than this one, in my opinion. But you're effectively doing it on the same turn, if that makes sense. But like I said, I think the other one, the Grixis one, is better, just because you're paying mana, but you don't have to pay lands to do it, and it automatically happens when you discard a card. Whereas this one, you have to pay mana and you have to return a creature. Whereas the Grixis one, you don't have to do that. It's just, you just pitch the card, right? Which I think is better than this. No matter, if the card is a 1-drop or whatever. Oh, excuse me. I still think these lands are not good enough in any other format but standard. Vibrant Cityscape. Tap sack. Search for a basic land, put into play tapped. We already have these lands, and adding another to landfall strats in standard is already good. So we already have a dime a dozen of these in older formats, but in standard, you just get more of them, if that makes sense. And more lands for Chocobos and Tifas is good. With our Cocoon Keeper, 1 white, 1 black, 5 colorless, legendary creature, human villain, 5/5 vigilance, lifelink. Whenever this enters, you may exchange life totals with target opponent. If you lost life this way, draw that many cards. This is really odd that instead of you wanting to gain life, this is if you lost life. I don't think there's ever a time that I would want to draw that many cards if I lost that life. So effectively how this works is if you're at 20 and your opponent's at 10 and you exchange life totals, you just effectively lost life. So you lost 10 life, so you draw 10 cards. Would you ever want to do that against any deck? I don't think I would. Generally, the cards that you want to exchange life totals generally is you're against aggro, and they just dealt you like 18 damage in 4 turns, and you basically go from 18 to 20, or excuse me, 2 to 20, and your opponent's at 2. That's how you use these cards. For some odd reason, I do like that you get that option, except, like, do you ever want to do that? Like, give your opponent extra life? I just don't think you do. Because, like, generally against, like, anything that's not aggressive, it's just, like, life total is sort of, like, non-existent. And your opponents generally are, like, between, 15 and 20. And if you're spending life to do all this stuff... Oh, excuse me. You're at probably less life total, so maybe that matters? I don't know. And then having lifelink, obviously you get that life back. Which ain't a lot when it comes to constructed, man. Or constructed playability. What are these scene cards? I don't know what these scene cards are for. Excuse me. These have got to be only, like, non-arena stuff. All right. So, green. And here we go. And the first card is from the bonus sheet. It's called Arachnogenesis. And it is a 1 green, 2 colorless instant. Create X 1, 2 green spider creature tokens with reach, where X is the number of creatures attacking you. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-spider creatures. So, in older formats, like Historic or whatnot, there aren't a lot of, like, Convoke-y type strats. It's normally, like, auras or, it's like Voltron or, 2 or 3 big creatures, and that's, like, really it. There isn't like this, these elves or, Convoke where there's, like 8 to 10 creatures attacking you for the win or whatnot. So, but if there is, this card is kind of insane against them. And there may be a deck out there that we just don't know about, but generally speaking, there aren't very many go wide strats, if you will, in older formats like Historic. So, if there is, this card's very, very good against them. And also, it's basically the same type of card that we'll talk about later, where there are a lot of prevent combat damage type stuff, and you could theoretically play, a Turbo Fog strat. Problem is that the majority of the decks don't kill you with creatures, except, like, Affinity and like auras. The rest of them are just, like, Lotus Breach is, like, combo. I guess technically, Eldrazi kill you with creatures or whatnot, but I don't know if like that's where you want to be, if that makes sense, because there's still like, you know, fringe strats out there. So, but it seems fine. Like, I'd play it. All right, Kren, Undercity Dreamer, 1 green, 1 colorless, legendary creature, human, citizen hero, as opposed to spider hero. When this enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each up to 2 target creatures, and then transform has returned. Activate only as a sorcery for 1 red, green, and white, and 3 colorless. Kren is a 1/2, and Kren flips into Kren of the Spider Brood. Which apparently when you flip this has a mana value of 6, which is 1 Naya, 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 blue, or 1 blue, 1 green, 1 white. Legendary creature Spider Human Hero is a 4/3 with first strike and haste. To put a +1/+1 counter on Kren, he gains hexproof and becomes colorless until end of turn. When you attack, double the number kind of counters on each spider and each legendary creature you control. So there is a very, very fringe I'm not even gonna say it. Like the rule change is so dumb. But effectively, Kren is a 2-drop, that's a 1/2, or effectively a 2/3. And then you put a +1/+1 counter on, you know, 1-drop of sorts. I like this a lot in green aggro strats, you know, because, you know, that's what you have. The problem that I have, if there is one, is when are you ever getting to 6 mana, and when are you getting to Naya colors? Because Naya is not a color combination that you see too much of. You either see green-white or you see Boros. You don't really see, and if you do see Gruul, Gruul is more of like red with a splash of green, or green with a splash of red for World Storm Rage or whatever the hell that's called. So World Rage Surge or whatever. So I'm skeptical at ever flipping this, but if you do, yeah, like, cool. You get all this stuff. The thing that's annoying is Kren is a 4/3 when you flip this, bro. And it costs 6 to flip. So, it's okay, I guess. Like, they're assuming that it's a 5, like, you already have a +1/+1 counter on him when you flip him. So he's a 5/4. First strike haste. Like, I think there's better 2-drops than this, but, I mean, it's not nothing, right? Skeptical. But we've seen cards like this before where they put +1/+1 counters, but generally there were 3-drops. So having it as a 2 is kind of a push, right? Like, on its face, it's a 2/3, but the thing that's annoying is it doesn't enter as that. Like, it triggers and then you put the counters on. It's not as it enters, right? So it is a 1/2 when it it's a 1/2 when it enters, and then the trigger goes up, and then, you know, you choose the targets that you get +1/+1 counters, right? But so effectively you could shock this and feel sad about it. Other than that, yeah, it's fine. Like, it just doesn't seem busted on the you know, it doesn't seem incredibly great on face, but it might be. A card that I think is really good is Fate Weaver. 1 green spider, 1/1 reach, death touch. 2 colorless, sacrifice this creature, search your library for a spider hero, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. Having a way to search for your better cards is always good. It's a little weird that this has reach and death touch, but the ability is activate only as a sorcery only, which kind of sucks because you can't like block flyers and then go search for something better. This card basically incentivizes you to put +1/+1 counters on it, obviously. So you know, to block sirens and all that stuff. I just don't know why you would want to search and then sacrifice this unless you're bringing it back, which is not very common in Standard. Older formats, nah, this is just a Standard card. So I'm not seeing it right now, but I would not be surprised if this, you know, saw play as just like, I'm going to go search for the best Spider-Man card that I can get. Right? So. But I like it. King of the Cold Blood Curse. 2 green, 2 colorless, 5/5 legendary creature lizard villain. Trample. When King enters, up to one other target creature loses all abilities and becomes a green lizard creature with base power toughness 4/4. Man, this card seems incredibly good. It could, you know, turn off a creature on the opponent's side if you really need to, and it blocks it. Or you could turn one of your creatures that has a couple +1/+1 counters on it, and now it's like a 4/4 or a 5/5 or a 6/6. And that seems incredibly good if like you're on the play, but on the draw you're kind of like, I need to block this creature or whatever. So this has some play to it. Seems good enough. Green has like these 3 and 4 drops that all compete. So we're not sure which ones are the best ones, but I would not be surprised if this one's one of the better 4 drops for green. Because generally you don't see cards like this that, you know, see play. Generally the 4 drops don't really see play. And right now you're seeing, you know, the Orborid or whatever that, the green card that gives all, you know, creatures +1/+1 counters. I think that's a 4 drop if I'm not mistaken, and that kind of competes with this. So, not to say this is bad, just you already have competition in the 4 drop slot, especially for aggro or slower mid range strats. Scout the City. 1 green, 1 colorless sorcery. Mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Gain 3 life. Destroy target creature with flying. So we've seen cards like this before. Anytime that you have a modal spell and it's cheap, you always give it a look. And this one does not seem bad at all. In fact, I would consider this running this main in a lot of the decks, because there's a lot of incidental flying creatures in the format, and milling a permanent is not hard because you can mill a land, a creature, an artifact, an enchantment, whatever, and it plays well with, you know, like, say, Insidious Roots or something else, where if you mill a Roots, because that was, like, the main problem with Roots, is all the cards that enabled Roots never got it back. So, like, all the mill cards were like, get a creature, artifact, or land from your graveyard, or get creature, planeswalker, basically anything other than enchantment. Or it was always mill 2 cards, get a permanent. This one's mill 3 cards. And if you don't want to mill, and it's like, oh, there's a flying creature that I need to destroy, you have that in a pinch. So I think this card's incredibly good, as a common especially. So, and I would not be surprised if you saw this over, you know, other cards that did not do this for permanents or whatever. Standard only. Strength of Will. 1 green, 1 colorless instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains indestructible, and when this creature is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. If there was a card that said play me against mono red, this is the card. Where they torch the tower or something, and you're like, Strength of Will, deals 3 damage. I get 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Also works if, like, there's a giant creature and they attack you, and then you make it indestructible, and now that creature just dealt like 10 damage to your creature. Now it gets +10/+10. Like, I think most people look at this and just go, yeah, it has indestructible, but you're probably playing this against black decks or whatever. You don't really want it there, and it's like, nah, man. You want this against like red and aggressive strats where it's just like, I want the counters. Like, I don't care if it gives my creature +2/+2 or whatever. And like, this incentivizes them to attack, right? So I'm not saying it's good or I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like, I would not be surprised to seeing like 1 or 2 of these as like protection spells added to the 1-drop already as like your way of like, all right, cool. I just made my creature get bigger. And then in older formats, I don't see it. Tangle. This is the other card I was talking about when Arachnogenesis was, when we were talking about that. 1 green, 1 colorless instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Each attacking creature does not untap during its controller's next untap step. I do not remember playing against this card ever. But this is like basically, you know, Time Walk on steroids for green. So like they attack with everything. You tap down, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, 2 creatures or 3. You're fine with that. Effectively, you're basically getting 2 turns out of your spell. And then there's also, you know, Snapcaster Mage and like all these cards that like bounce or return those cards from the graveyard. And it's not, I would not be surprised if there's like a Turbo Fog deck and Tangle is one of those cards that you get to play. So like I would try that in Historic, and this is one of the best cards that I've seen out of the Historic. There's one other that I think is like incredibly good. This is one of them. And like, this doesn't necessarily work against auras, but it works against basically everything else. Where it's just like, all right, I prevent all combat damage, like against all the decks except maybe auras, because generally they got vigilance. Like Wizards, for example, where they like burst you out and you're just like Tangle. And now they have like no cards in hand and their creatures are tapped. So like fair strategies like that, where you're just like, yep, tap your stuff, tap them down, and then I prevent all combat damage. Yeah, seems good in that strat. Other than that, I got nothing else. Tarantusk, Unwisely Awoken. 1 green, 1 colorless, legendary creature spider boar hero. 2/2. When this enters, create a food token. Other spiders, boars, bats, bears, birds, cats, dogs, frogs, jackals, lizards, mice, otters, rabbits, raccoons, rats, squirrels, turtles, and wolves you control get +1/+1. That was a mouthful. This basically outmodes the rabbit, right? Like where you're just like, yeah, all my stuff gets that. And this also hits frogs too. So like you could play frogs, rabbits, and have a lord for that. I don't know why you get a food token for this. That seems incredibly weird. But cool, you get a food token. And then you got like the best lord ever. Yeah. And it's not that bad in standard. It doesn't seem that incredibly good in older formats, but man, if you want a lord, this Tarantusk is your bro. Terrific team up. 3 colorless, 1 green instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. 1 or 2 creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. They each deal damage equal to the power to their power to target creature or an opponent controls. Reading is busted, chat. I thought this said power 4 or greater, not mana value 4 or greater. So moving on. The Clutter Cluster, 1 green, 1 colorless, legendary creature, spider hero. In web, 2 green, 4 colorless, 2/3. When this enters, if they were cast using in web, you gain 3 life and put 2/1 spider green creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield. This card doesn't even have reach on itself. But it is a spider. And it is a 2/3. So 2/3 for 2 is always good. That extra toughness is so good. But 6 mana to in-web or, you know, Spider Sling or whatever. Putting 6 power on board doesn't seem incredibly great, but that's not to say that you couldn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's fine. Other things that you can consider too with in-web or web slinging is you can return, like your pixies and stuff and keep bouncing and replaying them and doing the in-web thing while also attacking and doing that type of stuff. So I'm not saying that's what you want to do with those types of cards. It's just that's a thing to consider. The Scouring Storm Soul, 2 green, 1 colorless legendary creature, sand elemental villain, star. This Storm Soul's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Storm Soul cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. 2 green, 3 colors, return this card and target land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Is this even good? Like, at least you can return this without, at least you can return this by instant speed, but it comes into play tapped. I just don't think that having a 3/3 for 3 that does nothing else. Like, I understand it can't be blocked by small creatures. I guess it's fine that they can't chump block it, which is kind of a big deal. So maybe this is fine. Because power 2 or less is a lot. Like the 2/4s can't block it. The twos with Death Touch can't block it. So like the creatures have to have 3 or greater, which you want because that's basically where you're trading, right? So maybe this is good enough. It's sort of like having Trample, effectively. So it has pseudo evasion. Yeah, I could probably say this is probably fine. It's not busted. It's not bad. It's just fine. It's a big dumb green idiot like usual, right? All right. And lastly, Through the Omen Path. Through the Omen Path has its own card now. 2 green, 6 colorless enchantment. Convoke. At the beginning of combat on your turn, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So instead of having, Collected Company as an instant, now you have it as an enchantment, and it happens the turn you play it. The problem is, if there is one, is Convoke for 8 is a lot. And the only reason I say it is because I've played with the 8 mana red enchantment that had Convoke that tripled damage, and it was incredibly difficult to cast, even with like a bunch of creatures. So I think this is more of a commander card than anything else, because we've seen cards like this before, and they just generally do not see play at all. So yeah, like, I wish this was good. It's probably better in standard, or I'm sorry, in Commander than anything else. But like I said, generally speaking, Convoke cards that have like 8 or more or whatever is just like really, 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 really fucking really slow. And that's it for green cards, man. Like I said, all these colors are incredibly bad. All right. Arachnomania, 2 red, 3 colorless enchantment. The legend rule does not apply to spiders you control. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may copy it. If you do, you may choose new targets from the copy. If it's a permanent, if the copy is a permanent, it gains haste. Do this once each turn. All right, Chad, I put this in here for you Commander players. You got your card. You got your 5 seconds. Moving on. All right. Bayo, Irritable Instructor. 2 red, 1 colorless legendary human villain. 2/3 with flying. You don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, add 1 red. When Bayo leaves the battlefield, you may pay X. When you do, he deals X damage to target player. This is a lot of keywords, or a lot of words, or a lot of sentences for do nothing. Like, I think this is better than this is probably better than the other combo card. The weird thing is that combo card is easier to cast than this is, and it has a flip side to that. So I don't know. And like the leaves the battlefield thing, and you have to pay X for this is like what are you gonna? I understand what the card is doing. Like it wants you to spend a bunch of mana and then have that mana just sitting there. So when it dies, you pay the X with the mana that's sitting because you don't lose it. But like, I mean, I guess, right? I mean, I don't think there's ever a time where you're ever going to have like 5 extra red mana just floating, is what I'm getting at. And it has to be instant or sorcery spells. So like, is this better than the other combo card from older formats? I doubt it. Especially when it's harder to cast than the other card. Because that one was 1 red, 2 colorless. This one's 2 red, 1 colorless. And it's legendary. Although the other one was too. Interestingly, this isn't the same card. Like, you don't lose red. I mean, I guess. But aren't the 3-drops like way better than this though? I don't know. I don't think this is a mono red card. Like, it seems like it. But like mono red has better things to do than this. At least in my opinion, it does. Like, I guess you have flood protection, but I'm not seeing it. I do like basically, are you playing this or Screaming Nemesis? Like, you're playing Screaming Nemesis. Like, let's stop the nonsense. Firebrain Scheme, 1 red sorcery, choose 1. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose 1 until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. 1 or 2 target creature you control get +1, +0. Gain first strike until end of turn. Man, this is so close to being so good. It being a sorcery, I don't think really matters. It's the fact that it's a modal spell for 1 mana, and being able to see 2 cards is effectively like brainstorm, insurance, or like if you ever put stuff on the top of your library or, whatever, and you get rid of them. I do like that it says until the end of your next turn. So like, I would not be surprised if this saw play in Wizards in Historic, and in Pioneer, it could possibly see play there. Just because it's just a cantrip, but the cantrip looks at 2 cards. And then in a pinch, if you don't want to see card, then now your prowess creatures are now +2, +0, and they have all that first strike now. So I think this card's incredibly good, like for what it's trying to do and what you're trying to do with it. Yeah, but you don't care about that. I would even venture to say that this is better than sleight of hand, just because putting it in exile is what you want to do. Is what you want to do with some of the cards that are around right now. That it's like play from exile. If you play anything from anywhere other than your hand, that type of stuff. Like, this card wants you to do that. So yeah, I think this is Red's version of sleight of hand, and I'm with it. Not strictly better than, but like pretty better than. Kefon Rage Incubator. 1 red, 4 colorless, legendary creature, dinosaur, villain, 5/4 with menace. Discard this card until end of turn. Target creature you control gets +3/+1 until and becomes a dinosaur. In addition to its other types. Generally speaking, I would not put like commons like this on here, but whenever a creature gives you an ability when you discard it, you always want to look at it, and that's only because, like, if you're ever able to, use your creatures as like removal, or discarding them to make them better or whatever, then you have more more ways or more creatures to put into play. I'm not saying that you would do this. I'm just saying that there are cards that look at mana value 5 or less and like you can put those into play and you're discarding it already. There are discard strats or discard synergy stuff in, and giving your creatures, you know, +3/+1 is not nothing. Generally, you would see these as like +3/-1 or +3/+0 or anything. This one is your creature gets bigger. So, and if it has like, I don't want to say prowess, but anything that has to do with targeting, then yeah, I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying that if I were playing like just strictly all creatures, you know, like this with Harvester and like many other cards that do the same thing, oh my god, what's the card called? Carnosaur and all the other like creature discardy cards. And this is another one of them where I'm just trying to put them into play. Yeah. Kraza, the Swarm as 1. 1 red, 1 colorless legendary creature, spider human hero. +2, or excuse me, 2/1 with Riot. Other spiders you control have Riot. Spells and abilities can't be countered. And damage can't be prevented. So I'm going to cheat really quick and look up what Riot does. And I think it's like if you dealt damage, it's like gets a +1/+1 counter, right? Is that what Riot is? You would think the face of the format would have what Riot does. Enters with +1/+1 counter or haste, your choice. Oh yeah, this card's incredibly good. 3/2 mono red card for 2? Yes, please. Damage can't be prevented. Spells and abilities can't be countered. Like, brother. Other spiders have Riot. Yeah. Seems incredibly good. Yeah, Mono Red has so many good cards now. I wouldn't be surprised if this saw play in older formats too. 3/2 for 2, that's a very, very, like, just attacky creature. Yeah. I like it. Love giving opponents the beat down. Alright, Lava Brink repels the Magma Loth. Say that 5 times fast. 4 colorless, 1 red. Until your next turn, each creature attacks each combat if able, and attacks a player other than you if able. 3 red, chapter 2. This saga deals 5 damage to each opponent. Okay, so normally I don't put commander cards on here, but this I put on here as just like, it's hilarious, because this basically says, put this in a commander deck because of how the first chapter reads. And that's the only reason I put this on here. It's just like, this literally says I'm a commander card. And that's all I wanted to put on here, is just to show how funny this was. Laszlo, Enthusiastic Accuser. 1 red, 2 colorless, legendary creature, human citizen. 2/2. Laszlo enters, suspect up to 1 target creature. Basically makes target creature can't block. Whenever a creature you control with menace attacks, create a treasure token. I don't understand why this creature doesn't have menace, but it doesn't. All right, never mind. I'm stupid. So suspect means it gains menace, but it can't block. All right, so effectively you can give Laszlo suspect, and then it has menace, and then if a menace attacks, you create a treasure token. And it's a 2/2. Yeah, suspect gives menace. Look, man, I haven't played Magic. I don't play Magic much anymore. I was right that it gave the creature can't block. But yeah, the 2/2 for 3 is kind of bad. And yeah, you can give this menace, but generally you want to give other creatures menace. You don't want to give this necessarily. And honestly, I would much rather give other creatures my opponent has menace and I'm just attacking them so they can't block. Because there's a lot of menace creatures in Standard right now, especially like with the new spiders coming in too. So, again, 2/2 for 3 is just like, I understand this does something when it enters the battlefield, but yeah, but like, I doubt it. Because Bio Specialist is not a bad card. Like, it's not a meme. Like, this card's a meme, if anything. Naya Skysail Storyteller, 1 red. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Naya Skysail Storyteller, 1 red, 1 colorless, a legendary creature, human, performer, hero. 2/1. When Nia enter, I guess it's Nia. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card as long as you control this creature. And then it flips into Fabled Sky Climber, which is 1. It costs to flip 1 Jeskai, 1 red, 1 blue, 1 white, and 2 colorless. Flips into a legendary spider human hero with flying, vigilance, and haste. 4/4. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Naya. Remove 2 counters from Naya or Nia. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Is this card even good? Like, it has no evasion. It's a 2/1 for 2. And like, it costs Jeskai to flip this thing. Like, I got nothing. Like, is this card good? I doubt it. Like, all the flip cards seem bad so far. I don't know. I don't like... Yeah, but you have to flip it, right? Or can you cast the backside? Is that how that works? Oh, that is how that works. I still don't think these cards are good, though. I think the green one is the best one we've seen so far. This one seems incredibly bad. Like, red doesn't want to play 3 colors, and the best Jeskai 5-drop is not this one. It's the replay. Yeah, this seems... Whew. All right, anyway. Yeah, Standard, I think the best Jeskai creature is not this. It's the one from Dragons of Tarkir that replays spells 3 mana less. I think that's the best one for Jeskai colors anyway. All right, Quint's Insight. One red, one colorless enchantment. At the beginning of your first main phase, discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, this enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent. I think this card's incredibly good. Just because you always are getting the Mayhem Enabler, and this is it. And it's not legendary. And you don't really care if you get it on the first go-around. But just having an enchantment that does the same thing every time, like being able to have Mayhem Enablers or just discard enablers. Hell, you can even use this as a Reanimator card. Like, and you always have a discard outlet. And the more the merrier, because they all trigger, so you can effectively draw 4 and discard 4. Or one or the other. Like, yeah, I think this card's actually good. And then in older formats, if you want to play Mayhem and Madness, here you go. And it's not whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it only triggers once. No. This triggers all the time. So like, this seems kind of crazy. It says play a land, so like stuff like Scape Shift don't work with this. You have to play the lands. Yeah, so, but yeah, I like this card a lot. I'll be playing with this. This card seems really good. Rizna, the Spider Crowned. 1 red, 1/2 legendary creature spider human hero. When you attack with 2 or more spiders, put a +1/+1 counter on Rizna. Whenever Rizna deals 4 or more damage, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. Play that card. Yeah, this is just your run-of-the-mill aggro card. Like, yeah, play 2 or 3 of these as like your additional 1-drops. Yeah, this card's really good. Because, like, there's a bunch of free spiders in the format. So, like, it's not uncommon for you to have, spiders that have haste or whatever. Yeah. Man, it's so good that Monstrous Rage is out of the format. So, like, you Monstrous Rage this before you attack. Draw a card. This also works with the lizard. Or wait, no, it doesn't, because it loses all abilities. But still, like, man, this card seems good. I think it's only good for standard, though, which is weird. You could Wild Ride it. I don't know what Wild Ride does. Is it the same thing? I imagine it's the same thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wild Ride seems so much worse than Monstrous Rage. Man, Monstrous Rage is so good. It's neat the damage trigger happens even off it getting chump blocked. Yeah. It's just damage, which I like. Alright, next. So, Winds of Change is one of the special cards. 1 red, sorcery. Each player shuffles cards from their hand into their library and then draws that many cards. We do not have very many of these in Historic, but we do have Narset in that format, and now you have Winds of Change, and you also have Shieldred and many others. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we don't have like a draw 7 or draw like reshuffle draw, like we don't have Echo of Eons or Time Spiral or Time Twister, Wheel of Fortune. We just don't have any of those cards in Historic. This is the first one that we get that kind of does that. And Historic specifically has, a a lot of cards in other players' hands. So it's not uncommon for you to be on like turn 3, turn 4, and opponents have like 5, 6, 7 cards in their hand. So like Narset, Winds of Change, they draw 1 card, you draw 7, or whatever the cards are, right? And this also works with like if Lotus Breach has like a terrible hand, well, now they can just redraw it. So Winds of Change is like an unassuming card, and most people just overlook it, just like, yeah, we've seen cards like this before. Just like, yeah, but we don't have those on Arena. And I've played with Winds of Change before, and while it's card disadvantage, it's not really card disadvantage if your hand sucks. So like drawing 1 less card to have a better hand or a chance at a better hand is way better than having a bunch of hands with like 4, 5, 6, 7 mana value cards in your hand. So I would not be surprised if like a combo deck or, you know, there's a Jeskai or Jeskai controller or whatever, you know, is playing Narset and just goes, yeah, Winds of Change. And you're just like, ah, shit. And that's it. That's all the red cards that I think are playable. Constructed playable. Black cards, here we go. Aggressive Symbiosis, 1 black, 1 colorless, enchantment aura. Enchant creature gets +1/+1, has menace, and is a symbiote in addition to its other types. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its cost. So I got into a discussion on the Eternal Discord about how this card seems incredibly good for auras. And I basically got laughed at, and I was like, well, because there are some cards that are either the same cost or cheaper or whatever, but don't do the same thing. And I was like, well, this costs 2, and for Light Pause, that's a huge deal. And one of the things that I think is important is I can cast this from my graveyard, and I don't have to pay 3 mana for it. I just pay discarding a land, which I was going to sacrifice to draw a card anyway. So I'm surprised that most aren't considering this in auras, even if it is black, and you're mostly just Boros with like a couple of black cards in it, or, you know, 4 colors with like, you know, splashes. But being able to replay this out of your graveyard for a land, basically having Retrace and giving Menace, is like, I don't know, man. I think that's a huge deal, because I've played with auras. And sometimes there's just times where you're just like, I don't have Trample and I don't have Flying. And sometimes having First Strike and Vigilance is just not enough. So but with Light Pause, you can get anything. So I'm not saying you should play this as a 4-of. I'm just saying having a 1-of that allows you to get Menace, that's not just the red card, having an additional one that could be played from the graveyard in a pinch is not nothing. So, and I think that's the only time, because I don't think Auras is a deck in Pioneer, at least not anymore. And it's definitely not a deck in Standard. So Historic was the only card that I saw this for, and it was like kind of fringe. But still, like, I would give it a try, because they play everything else. Like, they're playing like 4 fucking colors. Like, Duskmourn's Claim, 1 black, 2 colorless enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, 2 players reveal the top card in their library. They each lose life equal to the mana value of the card revealed by the other player. Then each put the card they revealed into their hand. So when I read this, I thought it was like a very overcosted, you know, Dark Confidant, where we lose the life equal to the card that we revealed. No. It's the card that the other person revealed. So in essence, if they reveal, so for example, if they reveal a land, I take 0 damage. If I reveal, you know, a 5-drop, they take 5 damage, right? That's how this card works. And this has a, how do I want to say this? This competes really, really hard with Unholy Annex, and I don't know which one's better. I think Unholy Annex, like, on the face is a better card, just because, you know, Unholy Annex doesn't give another person a card. But if you're building your deck in a way that sort of takes advantage of that, like I can see this being a modern card where they play this and they're playing like Draco Explosion, right? Where they put Draco like second from the top. They play Duskmourn's Claim, flip over, you know, Draco, and the opponent takes 16 damage. Like I can see that, but we don't have that type of stuff in Standard. So we technically do have that in what's it called? We have that in Pioneer, where we have what's that card that costs like 13 mana or 15? Shadow something from New Capenna, Streets of New Capenna. I can't remember what it's called. Shadow something, and yeah, it costs like 12, and you could do that, but that might not be fast enough because Pioneer is kind of quick. But yeah, I think this is competitive, but I think Unholy Annex is just way too good. Like this is just not good enough, even if it does virtually the same thing. Egrix, the Bile Bulwark, 2 black, 3 colorless, legendary creature symbiote, human spider, or hero spider, death touch, lifelink, 4/4. When this attacks, until end of turn, you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play cards from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying the cost. So Egrix is effectively Bolas' Citadel, and I think that's incredibly good. I mean, Bolas' Citadel was 6 mana, and it effectively, like, you know, ended games on its own because, you know, sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, deal 10 damage or whatever it was. This isn't the same, but you don't have to do much to get that to happen, right? You could just attack. You don't have to deal combat damage. You don't have to do anything else. You do have to attack with this, though, which kind of sucks. But it's fine. It has Death Touch and Lifelink. So it still happens even if it dies. So, like, you could still do the thing on the turn. I think this is good. Like, it's just like this mid-range all-star that has combo kill potential. Those are the type of cards you want at 4, 5, and 6 mana. And dodges all the 3 damage removal stuff, while also having some lifelink to insulate your life total. So I like this a lot. It competes with a lot of other 5-drops, but this might be better than all those. Who knows? Hex of Undeath, 1 black, 6 colorless. Sorcery, return up to 6 target creature cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Normally, I would not put cards like this on here, just because in Standard, 5 mana is a lot, as a testament to why Zombify always saw play, and all these 5 mana stuff didn't really make it, as evident by all the 5-drops that we see today that don't see play. Hex of Undeath is 7, and generally speaking, this seems more of a commander card, but if you ever pay 7 mana and get 6 creatures from the graveyard, like, if that doesn't win you the game, I don't know what else will. It's annoying that it's 6 creatures from your graveyard, because it's like, when am I ever going to have 6 creatures in my graveyard? Like, with different names. So, like, that's why I said it's probably a commander staple more than anything else, just because you're always going to have 6 different creatures in the graveyard, because it's, you know, singleton. So, yeah, this is probably more a commander card than anything else, but still, a second look. Not to say that you couldn't do this in older formats just because we have stuff that casts this early, just, I don't think this sees play over that. It might, I don't know. Luis, Pompous Pillager, 2 black X, legendary creature, vampire villain, 2/1 with lifelink, enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, and when it enters, deals X damage to target opponent. I think this card is better than I read it. So it's a 2/1 for 2 with lifelink, and it's a vampire. So that seems good. And it gets bigger, so it scales. And then if you scale it like in a in a devotion deck, well, Chad, if I pay 12 mana into that, that's 10 damage. I think it's better than Gray, than the Gary. Yeah, and gain 10 life. Yeah, I think this is better than than it looks in older formats, especially with like Nykthos. And it's a vampire to boot, which is just incredibly weird. It's like it works with Sorin and all that, obviously in Historic or whatever. And yeah. And then in Pioneer, you can try to run like Mono Black Devotion, although you don't have Sorin, so, which kind of sucks. But whatever. I like this a lot. And in Standard, like 2/1 lifelink for 2 that scales is not nothing. So I like it. Incredibly annoying that he's legendary though. Yeah, but like Soren's already gone. So like, at least in Pioneer anyway. Opposition Agent, 1 black, 2 colorless, 3/2 human rogue with flash. Control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. When an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. You may play those cards as long as they remain exiled. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. Man, chat, if there's a card that basically says, don't ever search your library, this is it. I don't know if this is good enough in Historic, but man, somebody's going to get got by this. I don't think there's a search effect against that I would want to, like, hold on. What does Light Pause say? Hold on. God, it'd be so funny. Yeah, search. Man, this card's funny. All right, somebody's gonna get got by this. Where somebody against auras or anything that has search, and you're just like, all right, flash in opposition agent. Thank you. Now I get the oh man, what's it called? Shelter by Ghost or something else. And in Timeless, I think it's too slow just because Timeless, the game's ending in like turn 2, turn 3. So, but in Historic, this is the perfect card for that. There's not a lot of search effects, but it does hinder the decks that do search by a lot. Remorseless Coup, two colorless, 1 black instant. Put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. Man, why does... I put this on here because black breaks the color pie again. And if you control a villain, then, man... Obviously, it's not 2 mana, it's 3 mana, but still. Like, I get basically Aether Gust for black. That seems incredible. Like, yeah, it's a 3 mana removal spell, but still, like, it's not even exile. It's, like, give it indestructible. Okay. Still getting put under. But... I don't know. I think this is better than a lot of other removal spells at 3 mana. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Incredibly good and limited. I know that. Yeah. Rylix the Accused. 1 black, 2 colorless, legendary creature, symbiote soldier hero. Flash, menace, 2/3. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose a life. So basically, Midnight Reaper became a 3/2, or excuse me, a 2/3 with Flash and Menace. And albeit it's only non-token creature, and it doesn't count itself. So it's a side grade to boot. I think Midnight Reaper suffered a lot for being a 3/2, so being a 2/3 for 3 is a little bit less, but generally I think this card wants you to be in sacrificey strats, and it also functions as a pseudo, draw spell against sweepers that are like, all right, deal with all your creatures. And then, I draw a bunch of cards. So generally those cards haven't been very good. Every time we've seen a creature that had flash and did this sort of thing have not been the greatest, but that doesn't mean that it can't see play here. Especially when a lot of the exile stuff are gone. Although I will say that with Ultima and other sweepers in the format, it's like a 50-50 shot whether or not they have exile or not. Because you have Split Up and not Wrath of God, Day's Judgment or Day of Judgment, and then you have Ultima and the other 5 mana exile creatures and spaceships or whatever. So maybe, I know the blue-white control deck plays both, as in Day of Judgment and Ultima. So I think they play more Day of Judgments than Ultima, but I might be wrong. But this is more of like individual removal spells, 1-for-1s, that it's just like it pulls you ahead very quickly. The House Grows Hungry. 1 black, 2 colorless. Destroy target creature. Each player may discard a card. For those who don't, each player who doesn't loses 3 life. Exile any number of target players' graveyards. So initially when I read this, the chapter 2, I didn't realize that it said each player, not each opponent. So this also affects you. But generally, if you're playing discard strats, this is basically Mayhem Enabler written all over it. And it's sort of like a replacement, if you will, for Liliana. Although I will say this is more in line with there was a card from the new Theros set, the most recent, I should say, where it only destroyed like mana value 2 or less, and the opponent discarded a card and like exiled the graveyard. I can't remember what the card was called, but it's basically this. And this seems better than that, and it's at the same mana cost. So I like this a lot just because I get to destroy any creature I want. And then I get to pitch my best spell if I really want to. I don't really care about the 3 life. Elspeth's Nightmare was the card, thank you. Yeah, and exiling graveyard seems incredibly good in this format. So I think this card is very good. The only problem is it costs 3, and there's a lot of competition at 3. The Terminus of Return. 1 black, 1 colorless, legendary artifact, Terminus Stone. Indestructible, tap, add a black. 1 black, 6 colorless, tap, exile a creature you control, harness the Terminus of Return. Origin, at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this effectively functions like the Black Virtue. And I don't think that's better. It's like a side grade, effectively. Basically, do you want the acceleration, or do you want to gain 3 life and end a creature? And generally speaking, removal is better than acceleration. So you better be doing something with this artifact to, you know, put pressure on, you know, the red decks or the aggressive strats. I almost said it again. Yeah. So it's not to say that the acceleration is bad. It's just I would prefer the virtue over this if my format is all about creatures and attacking, and if my format is all about mid-range and spells and all that, then I would much rather have the Terminus to accelerate me. Like I said, the card's good. I'm not too keen on the 7 mana thing. It's more of, man, and this thing's also legendary, which is kind of annoying. And I mean, it's fine, but and you also have to have a creature in play. Like 7 mana is a lot. And it also, you have to tap this, so you can't even add the mana from this. So you have to have 7 lands or 7 mana outside of this. Annoying. Vigo, Enforcer of Ig's Crossing. 1 black, 2 colorless, 3/3 legendary human hero villain. When Vigo enters, return target creature card with mana value 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. 3 colorless, 1 Jund, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green to transform into Vigo and end of Ig's Crossing. You have a symbiote hero villain, 5/5 menace, trample, haste. When Vigo attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw X cards. Then you may put a permanent with mana value X or less from your hand, where X is the creature's mana value. So remember when I said the green one is the best one? This might be in competition with that. Not to say that you would play this over anything else, but man, Sacrifice already had some good 3-drops, and this is another one. But, bro, like if the only thing I'm annoyed by is the fact that it's Jund and not Mardu. Just because all the good sacrificey stuff is in Mardu. Like the mobilize and all that. Ugh. So that's kind of annoying, but being able to return, one of your sacrificey creatures like, Infestation Sage or, something that you need to rebuy is not nothing, man. And like all those 1-drops, or hell, even 0s for that matter, if there is any, is not nothing. And then, man, if you ever sacrifice, like, if there's ever a 4, I do like that it's mana value, not creature's power or toughness, just because it would be so easy to break that, or at least it would be more busted. But just, I honestly, I don't even care about the backside. I care all about the front side. Just being able to rebuy a 1-drop, like Infestation Sage, or any of the 1-drops that give you like another creature token, or some aristocrat is just really good to me. Even if it's like Clockwork Percussionist or something, right? Where it's just more value. So good. And then the same goes for Vigo. Just like another big creature if I just flood out on mana or whatever. And it has haste. And that's all the black cards. All right. Drum roll, please. All right. Bellion the Parched. 2 blue, legendary creature, elemental villain. 2/2. Whenever you cast a blue spell, if Bellion is a creature, he gets +1/+1 until end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, untap Bellion until your next turn. He becomes a land and gains tap, add a blue. He is not a creature. Man, listen. I don't know if there's a mono blue deck in Standard, but this single-handedly would force me into trying that. Or all of my splashes have blue in them. This card seems incredible. Like, 2 for 2 is already good. Yeah, like, you have to have an instant to deal with him. And, like, you could sort of protect him with counter spells. And, he sort of, like, accelerates you on the turns that you need, you know, that. So, like, for example, let's say you play him on the turn, like, you play him on curve, either on the play or on the draw, right? So, like, let's say you play him on the play. So 2 blue, tap in, doesn't die, flips into a land, right? So he's untapped, right? And then they go to play a 2-drop. It's like Cauldron or whatever, Spell Pierce. Like, excuse me? Or, yeah, like, are you kidding me? Stop it. This card's so dumb. And it, like, you make all the sorcery speed stuff so bad. So, like, they have to have instants. Now, it's not to say they can't have that, right? They can just go land. Like, the red decks will have, you know, Torch the Tower, Shock, or whatever. But still. And then on the draw, like, still Spell Pierce or, you know, Unsummon or whatever. Yeah. And then if you ever put +1/+1 counters on him, he doesn't lose the counters. Like, they don't lose the counters when it turns into a land. So, yeah. This card seems incredible. Like, sorry, this card seems really good. Like, I am over the moon over this. Cause like there's a lot of blue stuff, like mono blue stuff that get, like, so you got Memory Guardian, which is affinity, but still. You got the Planosphere, which is blue. You got some other blue, like, you know, artifacts or vehicles that are blue, you know, like the 2-drop or whatever. And then if you have any sorceries, right? Stock up, attack for 3, untap, like you said. Yeah, attack for 3, hold up Pierce. So, like, yeah, this is a tempo card through and through. It's sad that it's not a spirit, because, like, I think mono blue spirits would be, like, all about this card. And then in older formats, yeah, I have no idea. This seems really good. Like, even in older formats, because it's just like, it's a tempo card. So, and it's blue spell, so it's not like prowess. It's just it doesn't matter. Blue. Detect Intrusion. 1 blue, 1 colorless instant. In web 1 blue. So return a tapped creature to owner's hand. Counter target instant, sorcery, or triggered ability. So effectively, instead of having negate, you have counter target instant or sorcery or triggered ability. So effectively, I think negate is just much better than this. This seems more of a niche sideboard card than anything else, just because there are some instant and sorceries, but, like, I think we're past the days of, like, imagine if this said counter target instant, sorcery, legend, or triggered ability. I think that card would be insane. Like how Tail's End was. Tail's End was almost like main deckable because there were so many legends. But, like, this doesn't seem like you can main deck this card, because, like, negate's not main decked. It's just like Spell Pierce and No More Lies and stuff that just incidentally counters everything. This just seems like a sideboard card. Now, I do like that you could return. Now, be that as it may, you can in-web it and cast it for 1 mana. But again, is that better than negate? And I don't think it is. But 1 mana is definitely better than 2. I will give it that. This seems more of like older formats where like stuff is very, very cheap and efficient. Whereas, in standard, it's like you don't have that cheap and efficiency like you would want. Or that you could. Even if this is still a good card, which I think it's good. It's just, I just don't think it's playable as much in standard as it would be in older formats, if that makes sense. Gobin Gene Splice Savant. 1 blue, 1 colorless, legendary creature, human scientist villain. Gobin cannot be blocked. 1/1, when Gobin deals combat damage to a player, connive. Flip for Grixis +1. So 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red. Flips into Fleam, Gobin's creation. 3/3 flying menace. Goblin human villain. Spells you cast from graveyard cost 2 less to cast. Each non-land card in your graveyard has mayhem. The mayhem cost is equal to its mana cost. 4 mana is a lot. Like, can't be blocked is not bad. Like, that's good. I just don't know. Like, do we have enough Grixis stuff to make this Grixis deck work? I guess we do, because we have Gobin and we have Quince Insight as like your mayhem enablers, and that's pretty good. Maybe I lied. Maybe this is the best one. They're all pretty similar. I don't like that this creature like dies to a virtual sneeze, but like you're not blocking it, right? And like I'm sure that there's some synergy with being able to, attack and not be blocked. I don't know if there's any. That's also relevant. Curves into Kaido, that's a good shout. Yeah. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of how can you abuse the can't be blocked besides Kaido? Because like the connive portion is kind of good. I mean, because the mayhem enabler. The transform is very, very fast too. 4 mana is a lot less than 5 or 6. This might be the best one, and I'm not making this up. Like I'm not trying to meme or anything. I really do think this might be the best one of all the flip cards. Because the cost is cheap. He enables the mayhem stuff, and you can play Kaito with him, and you're always going to get the non-block, right? Does stupid stuff with Tursa? I don't know what Tursa does. I know that's the graveyard card. I just don't remember what it does. Draw up to 2 cards, or discard 2 cards, then draw that many. Whenever Tursa attacks, if there's 7 or more. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that seems good. I'm just looking at this also, you could be like graveyard centric, where you're playing reanimator stuff, that is also creature based. So yeah, this is incredible. Like, the more I think about it, this card seems very good. Again, might be the best out of all of them, just because it's cheap. The flip is cheap, and even if I wanted to play it on the flip side, it's still only 4 mana to do it, and it's still enabling everything I'm trying to do. Yeah, I think this card's good. The more I talk about it, I'm talking myself into this. This card seems very good. And also, the spells being cast from your graveyard doesn't just limit that to mayhem cards. So like you could have flashback, or some other card that's like cast from your graveyard. You pay the cost of the casting cost or whatever, and now it costs 2 less. It doesn't have to just be mayhem. And the reason why it's mayhem is because mayhem has to be in the graveyard for it to work. Yeah, I like this a lot. Imposter Syndrome, 2 blue, 4 colorless enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's legendary. This is a meme card for Commander. Each color has one of these Commander-esque cards. This is one of them. The card in Marvel, it has the 2 Spidermen pointing at each other. Incredible flavor. Card is insanely good for flavor. For this, yeah, Commander. Next. Lost in Litjara, 1 blue, 3 colorless. Surveil 3, Chapter 1. Chapter 2, when you cast your next creature spell, copy it, except it isn't a legend. 3, choose a card name. When a creature with chosen name deals combat damage to a player this turn, draw a card. Man, if this was 3, I think this card would be incredible, but the fact that it's 4 and my Chapter 1 is Surveil 3 is kind of a letdown. I don't get to draw a card until Chapter 3, which the game's probably already over by then. I do like that by turn 5 or 6, I could, cast a creature that's like a sweeper or some big creature that deals damage. And then now I have 2 of them, even if they're legendary. So that might be okay. I just don't like that it costs 4. I wish it cost 3. And then the Chapter 3 is like flavor text, because generally the name you're gonna name is the card that you copied. So, but yeah, this is standard only. If anything, more command. This is a commander card too. There's so many commander cards in this set. Oh boy, chat. Oh boy.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Moretta Neuron Hacker. 1 blue, legendary creature, human scientist villain, 0/2. When you draw your first or second card each turn, put an ingenuity counter on Moretta. Tap, you may cast an artifact spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the number of ingenuity counters on Moretta without paying its mana cost. Man, this card is so close to being busted. It's so close to being... Yeah, it's basically like what, oh my god, what's that card from? Not Saheeli. It was from Brotherhood's War, or Brotherhood's War, or one of those cards. Basically, every time you cast a spell or cast an artifact, you got two counters, and then you tapped and cast. Like, that card saw no fucking play. And this card is cost 1 less. And the ingenuity counter thing, this card is so close in Historic. It's so close. The reason why I like this card a lot is because it's not hard to draw like multiple cards in not just your turn, but like you have cards on your turn, and then you have like and then you have investigate tokens or clue tokens. So it's not that hard to draw, cards on other players' turns, because this is each turn, not each one of your turns. So like, it's not hard to get that extra counter, right? So, man, it's so close. I'm happy that it's a legend, but I cannot see myself playing more than 1 or 2 of these. And you're also like, you got to find room for it. Because right now in Historic, I'm almost to the point where I'm cutting Thought Monitors out of my deck just because it costs so much mana to play. And I'm on Tezzerets just to search out artifacts and do that type of thing. But this, it's almost like you should not find you. It's like you should be able to find a way to put this in your deck because it's just so good. Like if you have this on turn 1, and it's a legend, so you can play with Mox, and like it's not that hard to draw extra cards. So, yeah, card's good. In Standard, what artifact are you casting with this? Like, all right, we got some older format cards. Mystic Confluence, 2 blue, 3 colorless, instant. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Counter target spell unless its controllers play 3 or pays 3. Return target creature to his hand. Draw a card. This is a cube staple, and that's really all it's good in. I cannot see this being played in Standard, or excuse me, Historic or Timeless. This is mostly for Commander, but mostly for Cube, because this card still sees play in Cube, in every Cube I've ever seen. It's a blue staple in Cube. It's very good, does what you want, and yeah, good. Outsmart the Amateur. 2 blue, 3 colorless, instant, choose 1, draw 3 cards, or counter target spell, draw a card. So, man, I remember way back when Magic was ran by hooligans, and this is dating me a little bit, where we used to play 5 and 6 mana instants to draw 3 or 4 cards. Opportunity, Prerogative, Jace's Injury. Like, there's so many 5 mana draw 3s, draw 4s that we used to play. And today, like, those draw spells are just not good anymore. But now now WotC is getting smarter and tacking on modal spells on those older format cards where in a pinch, instead of drawing 3, now you can counter a spell and draw a card, which is insane. 5 mana is an insane amount to pay for an effect like that, but I don't think you understand how cool it was to pay 5 mana and draw 3 cards as an instant. Or Dragon Lord's Prerogative, where you paid 6 and drew 4 as an instant. So like, or Opportunity, where you paid 6 and drew 4 as an instant. Generally, when you pay 5 mana to draw 3 cards, it's at sorcery speed. But today, like, drawing 3 cards at 5 mana is just not good enough anymore. And at what point is 5 mana? How many cards is that worth? And generally for WotC, it's 3. But man, you got 1, 2, or 3 mana cards that do that. Not like draw 3 cards, but theoretically earn 3 cards from it, like 3 pieces of cardboard. So, like, to do the 5 mana 3 is not good anymore. It hasn't been for a while. I don't know if tacking on modal stuff does it, but hey, well, only one way to find out is to test it, right? Phantasmal Vision. 1 blue, 1 colorless, illusion villain, 1/3, flying vigilance. Whenever this creature attacks, mill a card. If you need a mill effect, here's your bro. I like that it's flying vigilance and it's a 1/3. I don't know if it's good enough for constructed, but if there is a mill card that you wanted to have a mill effect on, this is probably as good as you're going to get for a creature that is just a continual mill effect that attacks. Because it does both things. It attacks, it blocks well, it attacks well. It does the mill thing, and if you need a consistent mill card, here it is. Is that good enough? Only one way to find out. In Limited? Absolutely. Oh boy, chat. Oh boy. Oh man. There it is. Some would argue that Ponder is better than Brainstorm, And I tell those people, you're wrong, but Ponder is just under the power level of Brainstorm. Ponder, 1 blue sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards in your library, put them back in any order. You may shuffle, draw a card. In Timeless, brother, if there's one reason to play Timeless right now, it's because I can play Brainstorm and Ponder. Like, man. And I have Dark Ritual? Stop it. Alright, Ponder. Historic? I can't imagine that this is not in Historic, and if it's not, if it's pre-banned, they haven't said it's not. But if it is, we riot. Ponder is incredible. It's a shuffle effect for fetches or for Brainstorm or for anything. It fixes your draws, cantrips like crazy. It does everything for 1 mana for a blue spell, man, and even more for the free stuff if you're in Timeless. And in Historic, it's incredible, man. I like Modern. You only get Preordain, but you're not gonna get both. But you get Preordain and Serum Visions, and Preordain is pretty much like you just don't get the shuffle effect. But Preordain is like on par of being just as powerful as Ponder. And fuck, man, Preordain was banned in Modern for a bit. So I can't imagine that this will be pre-banned in Historic, but if it's not, Ponder, man, chat, if you've never played with Ponder, whew, I miss me some Ponder. So we definitely will be messing with some Ponder in Historic. You can guarantee that. Snatchback. 1 blue, 1 colorless instant kicker has returned. 1 blue, 1 colorless return. Target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If the spell is kicked, draw a card. So Into the Royal. Why they keep printing different versions of that, I have no idea. But we have our Into the Royal. Into the Royal has seen play before, so that's why this is on here. Every so often, you'll see an Into the Royal. Not so much now, just because there's so many good 1 mana bounce spells, you know, like Unsummon and Into the Floodmaw. But when there was a time where you didn't have any of those and the best thing was 2 mana, you played it because it was so good. And being able to answer any pesky permanent to have a counterspell backup to draw a card on the end of the turn was something that people did back in the day. Today, not so much, but it's still running true today that these types of effects are still playable today. Spectral Restitching. 1 blue, X, instant, exile X target artifacts and or creatures. Return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, if you wanted a blink effect, here it is. And it's really cheap. And at instant speed. Like, this seems very unassuming, but man, this seems incredibly good against sweepers. Like, no, Day of Judgment? Alright, I'll just blink all my stuff. Yeah. And if they're end of the battlefield triggers too, like this seems really good. Like not maybe as a main deck card, but I mean if you're playing a bunch of ETBs, like why not, right? And then as a sideboard card, just against sweepers, you don't have to play counterspells. You can just keep this up the whole time because half your counterspells are like pay 3 mana, and it's just like all right, I'll just wait. But yeah, like I like this a lot. Even for artifacts. Like, for example, I'm not saying I would do this, just, so in Historic, we have this card called Drix Interlacer, and Interlacer reads, whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, any artifact, not token, non-token, whatever, it's whenever any artifact enters, intensity increases by 1, and then you tap and sack it, and draw cards equal to half of the amount of intensity. So if you have 10 intensity, you draw 5 cards. But intensity is permanent. It's, you know, perpetual. So like it's not counters. It stays that way. So like if you ever blink any of those, you get that effect again. So like the same can be said for in standard, where you have all these enter the battlefield triggers for artifacts. And I'm not saying you would run this, but like that also counts for like weapons manufacturing, where artifacts that enter, you get tokens for that. But the first thing I saw with this was this is just sweeper insurance. But if you had enter the battlefield triggers, more the merrier, right? And last but not least, the Watcher on the Road. 1 blue, 3 colorless, legendary creature, human villain. 3/3. When Watcher enters, create a 3/3 blue illusion villain creature token for each non-token villain you control. Exile those tokens when Watcher on the Road leaves the battlefield. If this was a 3/4, I think this card would be incredible. But the fact that it's a 3/3 is just, man, it's so bad. Like, all right, I take that back. It's not bad because it's basically the same as Stitcher or Stitching, except it's a creature, where you get all those enter the battlefield triggers for all the non-tokens that you own, right? So like you got some pixies, you got some stuff, right? And you draw a card, you bounce your Watcher back, and you just keep doing that over and over again, right? And then you exile those tokens when they leave the battlefield. You don't get to keep them, but like you don't really care. You just want all the ETBs off of it. Excuse me. So I think this is better than it looks. It's the fact that this is a 3/3. Why does the toughness have to be 3? Yeah, terrible. But yeah, I don't know what else you would want to do with this besides that, but that's the first thing is ETB triggers and Pixie. But that's really it. All right, cool. And that's all the blue cards. White cards, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of them. All right, let's go. Ademi of the Silk Shoots. 1 white, 1 colorless, legendary creature, spider, human hero. Flash, 3/2. 1, Ademi gains flying until end of turn. 1, sacrifice Ademi. Creatures you control gain hexproof and indestructible. Man, if there's one card that you're just going to say, hey, this is going to be the top 10 of the set, and this is where we want this to be playable, here it is. This is your white card. 3 power for 2 mana, has fucking flash, and 1 mana to give it flying. Like, this card is pushed to the moon, and oh boy, white gets, and not to be outdone, it has sweeper insurance. So in standard, it's like free, and then in older formats that have Luris, like historic or pioneer or modern, where they have like free ways to put creatures onto the battlefield with unearth and, call or whatever, like, this card seems incredible. Flash flying? Are you kidding me? Like, what? Yeah, so I'm, and it's a human, and it's a spider. Like, it's an enabler for everything. This card seems insane. As somebody had said before, if there's a 2-drop that has 3 power, basically WotC wants you to play it. Like, it's supposed to be constructed playable. And this is one of them. Man, oh man. Imagine if this wasn't legendary. And that's why they can get away with this. Like, just all this stuff because it's a legend. And then we move into a Most Helpful Weaver. 1 white, 1 colorless saga. Chapter 1, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. Chapter 2, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It becomes legendary. It becomes a legendary spider hero in addition to its other types. Chapter 3, target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. So, I don't know why the chapter 2 is just like, we're gonna make this into a legendary spider hero. That seems kind of that seems like kind of like a nombo. But I don't know how good this is, just because like the 2 mana for a 2/1 with reach is kind of like whatever. And you make your spider token with reach a 3/2, and then now it gains double strike. But like, when you want your bigger creatures to get that, like, I think this card's actually fine. I just don't know if like, this seems more like in a token or go wide strat, where I just want to give a creature double strike. Doesn't matter which one. Hey, maybe we could give that flyer double strike, huh? But, or something with trample. Just like make your own Embercleave. Like, I think this card's actually good. In standard only, I don't think this is good enough in any other format. City Pigeon, 1 white, 1/1 bird with flying. When this creature leaves the battlefield, create a food token. So normally commons that when they die, and they do something, they generally get a second look. And while a food token is not like incredible or anything, an artifact is always good. And like, sacrifice fodder is always good. And the thing that's cool with City Pigeon is it enables not just sacrifice strats, but if you needed food strats or artifact strats or anything of the sort, like, City Pigeon kind of does that for you. Not just in limited, but in constructed. I'm not exactly sure if like this is where you want to be, but I like the idea that I could pixie this if I want to, or bounce it if I want to. You know, like with the web slinging stuff, or in web, where I attack with this, and then I bounce it with in web, and now I have a food token, and then I just replay my City Pigeon, and I just keep doing that to get food. Like, that's not nothing. I'm sure that there's more that you could be doing with that, right? But City Pigeon kind of like enables that in web type of thing. So like, life gain, or my favorite probably is going to be web slinging is the in older formats, if there is one, the Novice Inspector or the Thraben Inspectors, where you just keep getting investigate tokens or clue tokens. So yeah, in web, yeah, good deal. And finally, he'll get his comeuppance. 1 white, 3 colorless, instant. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn by sources you don't control. If damage from a creature source is prevented this way, comeuppance deals that much damage to that creature. If damage from a non-creature source is prevented this way, comeuppance deals that damage to a source's controller. Remember that deck that I was talking about earlier where I said, hey, we might have a Turbo Fog deck? Comeuppance is another one, right? And it's each source, right? So like, if a bunch of 2/2s attack you and you comeuppance, hey, all those creatures are dead now. And if for some reason they deal a massive amount of damage and non-creature damage, hey, guess what? All that damage has now been prevented, and it deals it to the source, the controller of the source, which is your opponent. So I like this a lot in Historic. I don't know if this card's good enough, but what I think is hilarious is being able to basically like reflect all that damage to the opponent as like another way of, like Bant Turbo Fog or whatever, which I might try. Confessor's Bindings, 1 white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may tap 2 untapped creatures and or treasures you control. If you do, draw a card. Otherwise, sacrifice this enchantment. This card's really weird because I don't know where you're getting the treasures from, and you got to keep those treasures to keep the card flow, or else you're gonna lose the bindings. I do like that you're always drawing an extra card at the end of your turn, but you need to have creatures to tap, right? And you don't even get that from like creatures that you want to tap, like Kona or any of that other stuff, because it's at the end of your turn. So like you don't get the survival trigger. Like that would be a cool deck if this was like at the second main phase, or at the beginning of your upkeep, or something like that, where you tap 2 creatures or whatever. But at the end step, it's kind of like, why do I this? To me, honestly, this seems like a sideboard card. Like you keep your creatures or you keep your treasures, and you're against control, and you're just like, I'm drawing an extra card every turn to recoup all that stuff I lost. This does not seem like a main deck card to me, because it's too situational. Like, yeah, you're drawing cards, but you're drawing them at the end of your turn. So like, if you're an aggro deck, yeah. It would have to be like cards that are creatures and that give you treasures, and that like have like summoning sickness or whatever. That's where I could see that. But to do it multiple turns, you know how many creatures and treasures that is? That's a lot. Costume Closet. 1 white, 1 colorless artifact. This artifact enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Move a +1/+1 counter from this artifact onto a creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. Whenever a modified creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this artifact. So in standard, this seems pretty good with those cards that give you additional +1/+1 counters when you put them on creatures or whatever. I'm pretty sure that this works with hardened scales. Hold on. If one or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature you control, put them on it. Yeah, so all those cards that say put an additional +1/+1 counter on creatures, yeah. This seems insane with those. And I don't have to pay mana, which was a major problem with any of those cards that had that, where it's just like, I have to pay mana to move counters. Now I don't have to. And it's an artifact, which might not be relevant now, but it might be later. Mostly for standard. I don't know if this is good enough in those other decks, like those other formats like Pioneer or Modern or Historic or whatever, but if you're playing hardened scales, I don't imagine that you couldn't try this. Although we have something better than this already in standard, which is but it costs mana, is the Cage, which is way better than this. So maybe Cage is just like the best thing until it rotates, I guess. This does work with Loading Zone. Yeah. Everything but artifact. Sunstrike. 1 white, 1 colorless, instant, destroy target attacking or blocking creature. I had to look this up before I came live. I thought we had something like this already. Turns out we don't. This is the first. This is not a reprint. This is the first of its kind. Well, not the first of its kind of attacking or blocking. We've had a bunch of these cards, but generally, white having something that costs 1 or 2 mana, it only dealt damage. And just the mere fact of this destroying, attacking, or blocking creature, this is incredibly playable. So white just got a free additional removal that's like close to Get Lost on power level. Yeah, like just your good run-of-the-mill 2-mana removal spell. But like I said, white usually got something that was just like, if it was 2 mana, it was like deal 4 or 5 damage. Now it's just destroy it. So push to the moon at uncommon, right? Yeah. Hooray. Easy to cast. Surus Spider Silk Innovator. 1 white, 1 colorless legendary human scientist hero. 0/1. When Surus enters, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. This card, the front side of this seems incredibly bad. And then it flips into Surus Silk Tech Vanguard. Flip or cast for 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 green. 4/4 vigilance and reach. Each legendary spell you cast that's 1 or more colors has in web for 1 white, 1 blue, 1 green. I highly doubt this is relevant. Like, it's just a 4/4 that has vigilance and reach, and then you get a 0/1. This card sucks, right? Like, this is the worst one. Am I not kidding? This has to be the worst one. Now watch, I'm going to go back and all the creators like, this is busted, oh my god, it's so good. I'm like, I don't see it. This card seems incredibly bad. Like, 4/4 for 4 with vigilance and reach is kind of like whatever. I've seen better from worse creatures. Or worse casting costs or whatever. I don't know. I think this card's bad. Like, the only thing this has going for it is it's cheap. Like, the flip cost, the cast cost, whatever, is just cheap. And obviously you can, blink this. Like, I'm trying to find spots where this is good, where you just keep making 2/1 green creature tokens with reach, which, by the way, is not bad. Like, that makes all these 1/1 and 2/2 flyers, like, just incredibly bad. Like, imagine being, like, a blue-black mid-range deck with all the Sirens and Fairy Masterminds and all that shit, and just, like, your blue-white or your white-green creature deck is just, like, putting all these 2/1 green spider creature tokens with reach in play. You're just like, God bless America, fuck your deck. But, like, other than that, like, I don't... Like, this is not what Standard's about anymore, man. I don't know. Like, every time I see cards like this, I'm just like, cool, man. That's cool, except, what do you do against Vivi? I rest my case. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, in what universe are you trying to, like, because you have to cast this first. So, like, I could just zombify it or, other things. Like, why do I have to jump through all these hoops just to make sure that I could put a, another big dumb legendary creature? Yeah, I literally can Kona Omniscience into play on turn 3. Like, this card seems incredibly bad, man. Alright, I'm over it. A card I think is incredibly good, though, is Verilax the Haven Skin. 5 white, chat. 5 white. Imagine for a moment. Alright, let's go back in time. Remember those times when you were playing Devotion or Old Magic where it was just like 3 white or 4 white or 6 white or 6 black or whatever? I mean, we have that casting cost in Standard today, as a matter of fact, I think. And now we have Verilax the Haven Skin, which is the anti-Spider, or the anti-Venom in the paper version. legendary creature 5/5 symbiote hero. When this enters, if it was cast, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If damage would be dealt to Verilex, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on him. Chat, oh my god. Okay, so remember that four cost. It was straight white. Yeah, Phyrexian Vindicator, right? Phyrexian Vindicator was 4 white. 5/5 flying, if damage were prevented, right? Then it deals that much damage to another target. I think this standard is much better for effects like this than in other formats. In my opinion. Because how does Vivi get around this? I guess they bounce it, right? God, I hate that deck. But like if they don't have Into the Flood Maw, how do they get around it? Because like the majority of their stuff doesn't fly, right? So like you just have this 5/5 in play. And then I get to return a creature card from my graveyard to the battlefield. It's probably going to be white, but still. Yeah, I think this card's incredibly good. Like, this card seems insane against, like, red. Yeah. A little annoying that it doesn't, it kind of gets laughed at by Screaming Nemesis, but what can you do? You can't beat everything. Yeah. I like this a lot. Only in standard, though. Wedding Ring, a reprint from the old 2 white, 2 colorless artifact. When this artifact enters, if it was cast, target opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. Whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring draws a card during their turn, you draw a card. Whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring gains life this turn, you gain that much life. This card seems funny. I don't know if this is good enough in Historic, but good God, man, this seems incredibly funny. This is a Brawl card, obviously, a Commander card. But like in Historic, this seems like a hate card against like, a hate card against the Val combo if you can get it out on turn 3. And there isn't that much card draw in that format, though. So I don't know. 4 seems like a lot, though. But this seems like a good anti-combo card, anti-control card. Or I'm sorry, just basically every life gain infinite combo kill you strategy. Wedding Ring basically says go pound sand. This also stops Samwise combo. Actually, no, it doesn't. I lied. It stops the Val combo though. It does not stop Samwise combo because you can get around the triggers. All right. But that's cool though. It's sort of like what you wished. Like this is what when Wedding Ring was printed, it's like, oh, I wish I was the One Ring. Yera and Oski, Weaver and Guide. One white, 2 colorless, legendary creature, human spider hero, 3/3 in web 1. As this enters, look at opponent's hand, then choose a card type other than creature, spells of that chosen type, 1 less to cast. I don't care what anybody says. You could have had this as just a 3/3 within web 1. I'm telling you, this card was already playable. Now you've taxed removal with 1 mana. Like, irritating. All right. Mono white aggro is the thing now, I think. Or mono white just in general. Cause yeah. And even in older formats, I think this is extremely playable. Just because, like, you just name Fatal Push or you name something with 2 mana, and like taxing by 1 is so pivotal in those formats that like I said, for 1 mana, which is just, yeah. People are gonna get got by this 1 mana thing by a lot all the time. It's not, yeah. But this card's incredibly good for 1 mana. Whew, so good. Yeah, and now you just get taxing effects now. Yeah, precisely, and Halaya. Yeah. And then, like, what you can do is you check this play out. So I know this is like Magical Christmas Land, but hear me out. So you have the spaceship, right? Or you have something that taps creatures. So you play Halaya, right? For 1, you warp it in, and then you bounce it after you get the effect off of it or whatever, and then you play the in-web for 1 and then tax the opponent after you've tapped it with the spaceship. That's so dumb. Is it casting if you web sling? It's casting, right? Not putting into play? Yeah, it's casting. Okay. I was gonna say, if it was not casting, you can use the web slinging as like the ninjutsu with a couple other cards that I'm thinking of, but escape me. But yeah, this card's incredibly good. And then last but not least, Zora Spider Fancier. 1 white legendary creature 0/2. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. If it's a spider, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So remember, like, how people laughed at how, like, Guide of Souls was like, yeah, it's fine, but like 4 energy is a lot, or 3 energy is a lot. Turns out it wasn't, and gaining a life for another creature is just like kind of like easy. And then they learned, there's no way they didn't learn from Guide of Souls with this card, because it's legendary, right? Guide of Souls should have been legendary, but whatever. But effectively, that's what this is all your spiders now get a +1/+1 counter. So now all of your 2/1 with reach are now 3/2s. So if you're playing a spider deck, I can't imagine that you're not playing this, just like as a 1 or a 2 of. I mean, hell, you can play it as a 3 of, who knows? I don't like that's an 0/2, but hey man, dodges Bowmaster. And that's it. That's all the cards.